We have a grand finalist. We have 2 mid-season final qualifiers. It is now time for the sudden elimination round. As 2 teams over the course of today will be going home. 3 teams, actually, will be finished for the stage. But we're starting off, Ryan, with Team Heretics, who were 1 fight away from going to mid-season finals.
30 HP on Phi away exactly as well, so it was about as close as it can get. But the thing about this Heretics team, they've got a lot of experience in these like playoff situations for qualifying for events, and also experience at said events too. So it would be the biggest shock, certainly when we're qualifying 3 of the teams, that it's not our 3 partnership teams going. The problem, however, is that they're going up against some tough opponents. Shikigami first, which went to a full best of 5 the last time that these 2 teams like played in the preseason playoffs. A little bit closer in, well, one-sided in groups, even towards Heretics. But I guess the point is that Shikigami can certainly bring it on in these kind of big games, and Heretics need to be careful because now the pressure's on them on whether they're going to qualify or not.
I usually try to point out players who I think have had really standout performances in different stages. And I've, of course, mentioned Isidore, who we'll get into a bit more in a bit during that pre-season. But Beetle has done so much for Team Heretics. But speaking of Isidore, Boxy, tell me about Shikigami.
Yeah, Shiki, they've got a gold mine when it comes to a composition to rely on. Isidor's Hulk, Frost Mountain's Wolverine. Those 2 are such a strong pair, but with Shiki, like, they were able to go for this reverse sweep versus Strays. They had to rely, though, on 3 map wins back-to-back off of Fastball. I don't think they'll get access to Fastball, so we have to see the adaptation that they have into Heretics, who we know what Heretics will try to rely on. They like to go for these like really long Starlight fights with the triple strategist. So for Shiki, it's about, can you find ways of winning fights fast without the Wolverine if you're denied it, so that you don't just get burnt out of time bank?
This is a tough question. We've traditionally seen him against a couple triple strategist compositions that, as we're seeing on our screen right now, Groot can get some good value splitting people off from their strategists, and we do know that both Isidore and Kaya are insane on the groups, but this is the character who has been really influential for both these teams. You already mentioned it, Boxy. Frost Mountain put on a huge performance with that Wolverine to bring them back in the reverse sweep for Shikigami, but Tanuki just continuing to show why they are a melee king on everything. And we're going to start off, as usual, on Domination. The first map will be Celestial Husk, which means we are going to be heading into that draft. I will shut my mouth and leave you with Ryan Central and Got Moxie, because this game is too much of a big deal and too exciting to wait any longer.
And their opponent, they have to play later today, the winner of this one, up against the next series, best of 5-2 of Pulsar versus Rad. And like we just saw a Jerky saying, Rad might be a bit, oh, a little kitty. I mean, that's the only cat that we seem to be seeing so far at this stage, because certainly not a black cat, but yeah, we're not seeing black cat at all in so far this tournament. And at least there's like a, you can win, mother. We can do this. We can get our revenge on Team Heretics. Anyway.
I mean, not even close to White Fox too, since foxes are actually closer related to dogs than cats. But we shall have to see if there are White Foxes left after the ban draft goes through. I think we're both looking to see if Heretics take a chunk out of Frost Mountain's hero pool, go for the Wolverine. That does free up the Daredevil though, so it's like pick your poison on the side of Heretics, or more specifically Lime Pro, since he is the one that usually concocts the team drafts. And if you let Wolverine go for the ban, yep, there it is, then that does mean that Shikigami can also go for the Rocket as well.
Daredevil going to be banned out. Bit of the changes here. And yeah, the Wolverine, I remember Enzo, I think it was saying that Frostbat was a Wolverine merchant, specifically. And Shikigami, Frost Mountain saying that Team Heretics are a triple strategist merchant team. So there's been enough beef brought across both sides. But yeah, no surprise that the Wolverine's banned out, because it also means that Laylas is probably still going to play the Cyclops if it's appropriate, but that team up isn't going to be available.
Yeah, no Rocket save. Shiki instead saving the Captain America, which means that Heretics are able to secure potentially one-sided Rocket here if they want to, or they could go for something like the one-sided Wolverine. might go for a save on something like the Cyclops, but no, Rocket Raccoon instead. So having that BRB up, we already saw the value that Na'Vi were able to eke from it versus Virtus.pro on domination, which is so snowball heavy, winning fights, being able to stall out fights that you're losing off of just funneling players back in to hold out for more and more point percentage. A lot of the time can actually be the difference maker between walking away with these map wins, as Shikigami will be able to secure one-sided Captain America, but Heretics still having the option open for triple strategist if they really want to go for some of that stall strategy.
I mean, Team Heretics would very much love to do that because they've consistently wanted to do that, even making it work in some of the more interesting situations with the reintroduction of Adam. But yeah, one of our big games, well, the first of our big games as the next three are going to be pretty impactful on who is going to be heading to mid-season finals. It all strings together. It's a test of attrition, as these best of fives can be long, and you might have another best of five to follow straight afterwards. Shikigami want to get the revenge against Team Heretics that beat them in the lower bracket final preseason last time. We want to start off on the right foot with a domination win, and luckily for them, it's not been the worst record. I think 5-2 for 3-0 Heretics, and it seems that again they're coming out with a triple strategist.
Yeah, triple strategist Ultron flavor for Heretics, as Shikigami denied the Wolverine, don't have the fastball to throw a Wolverine at that problem in the sky. You're relying on Leolaz instead, on the Psylocke being able to ground that Ultron before he becomes a problem. Frost Mountain, actually, no Daredevil for him. He's on the Jeff, so Shiki also leaning on a triple strategist outlook, but they do have more stable resources with the symbiotic shenanigans to pair with Kaya, so a lot of staying power for both of these teams. Heretics more burst damage off of the Elsa in comparison to the Psylocke dive.
Kaya finds that first pick onto Enzo, though, that's trying to go for the mag, maybe expecting that there was going to be a Star-Lord out in play, that they want to try and mitigate some of the damage. But yeah, interesting lineup, as yeah, Cap is going to be on that White Fox. The White Cat is giving them some, like, keen advice, I suppose, on what characters that they want to be going for. And Shikigami actually might be looking to take the point first. A little bit scary as Ultron was frozen down to the ground from Naga, and Portal front in straight away from Team Heretics. Not the jump play that we expect, but an early one to make sure that this fight stalls out a little bit longer, and they might be able to turn it around off the back of the Maelstrom, connecting onto the backline. Kaya finds himself another keen trade, trying not to swing his way right into the portal and end up towards the Heretic spawn. Actually gets taken out for his trouble. Shikigami might have to give up some of the space, as there's 5 players on his Heretics team all stocked up on top of it. The last one that's not there quite just yet is going to be Tanuki coming back onto the Elsa, as this brawl is still ongoing, Moxie.
No one is budging. Heretics about to hit Rage of Ultron to be able to hold their position, but Shiki going to be able to stabilize with the It's Jeff. Kaya using Feast of the Abyss at the same time as Beetle, but Heretics with the Rage of Ultron first, going to be able to get some healing power as well as the potential of taking Frost Mountain down. The Jeff's able to actually escape the wrath of the Ultron using that cover. He has 2, but the speed bubbles were not set up, so Frost Mountain not able to complete pathing off of the map, but removing them from the fight temporarily was enough for Shiki to finally push out Heretics and claim the first cap, as Ultron actually swaps to the Star-Lord. You'll have to wait a little bit, though, before you compare that ultimate with the Gambit. Heretics might just decide to use it on its own.
Oh, that's the butterflies. Hot tempo, hot play that is going to force out the Royal Flush on the other side, but it is Ken that gets taken out first, so Fate of Both Worlds is going to be used instantly from Team Heretics, moving from 3 strategists to 2. Back-to-back ultimates at least allow a pick onto the Duelist on the other side. Now you've got the Glortrox coming through. You get connected onto the Kamiho, but it's not going to be moved by the Glortrox. I think the White Fox is a little bit bigger in this form, and Cap is actually slaughtering this backline, cutting through these chickens like easy prey, and Heretics with big ultimates dedicated find very little for their troubles.
Double ult fight from both back lines. Shiki more than happy to actually make that sacrifice, since Eastor still holds the Freedom Charge sustain that Heretics will be lacking providing for the rest of their team. So you have survival options into this Galactic Legend that Heretics will look to use with that Ban Hammer, just chunking through some of these players onto the backline, fully forces Shiki to have to just ward around Lindstrom, but they lose the Luna regardless. Still, though, staying potential of stall if they really want to gain as much point percent as possible. The Vanguards are still up. Kaya actually takes a chunk out of Heretics just to be able to prolong the percentage.
Yeah, if you can get this up to 90% at the very least, Freedom Charge is even going to be dedicated. You could maybe get this to 99 as progression now for Heretics is starting up. But a pick onto Alex is kind of scary. No, Vera back is going to be available for them. And now a Galactic Legend is going to be used. Still in the hands of Shikigami is this first domination point. And actually, the Galactic Legend gets galactically lost as Shikigami are actually holding on to this first point with the attrition that we said that they needed. Team Heretics using a lot of trying to combine these ultimates and strung along. Shikigami take this first point.
You can tell that Shiki, after that 5-map series yesterday, went away fully aware that they would be banned out of Fastball in all of their rest of the matches, and they had to have a backup option for Frost Mountain to be able to play. Like, the fact that he has the Daredevil available to him, but you're still running him on Jeff to have the triple strategist to stand up to the sheer stall potential of Heretics, but then you get that extra survivability with the symbiotic shenanigans. And then on top of that, Isidore, off of the Captain America save, has a 4th defensive for Shiki to be able to rally around with the Freedom Charge. Like, if Shiki get the first cap, it will take so much from Heretics to be able to break through the sheer amount of resources that they have. It will rely on the Star-Lord Gambit ults combining just to have any chance of being able to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, which is all of these defensive resources that Shiki have at their disposal.
No compositional changes. Heretics sticking on that 2-2-2. You got to say, if Black Cat wasn't nerfed, she would be really good in this composition instead of the Psylocke with the team-ups alongside like White Fox and Cap. Like, there's a lot been strung up together from Shikigami. This Kai's going to be the one contesting the point, just going on his like daily run, meeting up with fellow symbiotes on the home planet of Clintar. But Royal Flush is going to be the one that's used first from Heretics. Seeing it from Frost Mountain's distance, he's using it as much as he possibly can. And seeing it from Shikigami's perspective, considering there was a Royal Flush used on the other side, Moxie, pretty Sunday drive.
Yeah, they might as well be on vacation. And that splits you from your Star-Lord ult as well. Cosmic Ion Amplifier invested from Alex. Leolas can just break that, though, with Dance of the Butterflies, not allowing Heretics any movement off of the Rocket ult. Lindstrom a little bit late on using that Luna ult, though. Already down both the Venom and the Psylocke. So Heretics being able to take the Venom out, just having
Kaya
to
Strange.
deal with the stall potential of Kaya, like you said, going for that Strange. Shiki's players trying to just keep Heretics off of the cap so that the portal has the time to come through, as Tanuki is in charge of dealing with the land shark.
Frost Mountain he hasn't gone down yet. I understand why. Like, what's the point in fighting him? You can. But it allows time for that portal, and Shikigami know that these first fights of domination are the most impactful, and they're not willing to give it up for anybody. But the eliminations coming through, BR back means that Team Heretics, I think, still have the player advantage, but Kamiho means that there's a few more animals that are out on the side, and Isidore is rampaging through as well. Very close to a freedom charge, meaning that this triple strategist feels like there's going to be 4 on this objective, 4 on the point. Team Heretics, the kings of stalling, might have had their crown taken away from them, as it's Jeff is allowed Shikigami to continue on. But with everything that was used, Galactic Legend now going to be counted in from the freedom charge. Gambit's going to be spat away. Ken right on the edge of the map might not have the chance to dash through. He does, and so Frost Mountain's just going to try and take this one-on-one as much as possible. The problem is that he's taking it right next to a health pack, and so all this has done is taken one of the biggest strategists that might have built his ultimate up in that time if he was in that fight. He is unavailable, and the point flips to
not
Shiki.
just that. Shiki, if they lose the Jeff, right? You still have Luna, you still have White Fox. Heretics only have rocket healing if Ken is denied line of sight on his team. So Tanuki actually is the one to swap off of the Psylocke onto the Ultron so that you have more poke potential, but you also have more staying power, more healing potential, as Leolas goes for a very early dive, putting pressure onto Alex, trying to get the pick off onto that rocket or force the panic situation of Ken requiring the use of that Gambit ult, allowing Shiki to be able to kite it, as they have nothing to be able to stand up if Heretics get aggressive. You can see the disengagement from Shiki, making sure that they don't lose anyone on the kite before they can push their vanguards back in so that Heretics do not claim the cap.
Still a foot on the point now. Shikigami has stolen this out to a absolute T. As Heretics off the back of the Royal Flush, really not getting all too much in the end. Yan Amplifier going to be used to try to counter, but Ken gets taken out. I would have thought that the Yan Amplifier might come in with the Galactic Legend in before, but it seems that Naga doesn't actually need the ultimate to be finding the picks. Same again though for Shikigami, losing 2 players, then deciding to use the best of both worlds, fate of both worlds, and now you got a Kamiho that's about to string online. You don't have the Strange Portal that's going to be that useful here, but what you do still have is control of the objective. Shikigami just constantly keeping Heretics in the black when it comes to the actual expenditure of ultimates, and it might be enough actually for the Galactic Legend to push past these strategists. Nothing is available for ultimates, but there's still just enough people on the point. Kaya using the resilience in order to keep surviving. Naga's ultimate gets nothing.
Yeah. And now Heretics will be forced to invest Ultron and Banhammer at the same time. Frost Mountain with its Jeff provides healing actually for the team, and then uses the E to try to carry Cap away from this dive from Beetle on the back line. Goes for the spit instantly, but the White Fox unfortunately was pushed out of that fight. So finally the flip comes through, but at the cost of every ult that Heretics had at their disposal. The moment that Isidore is able to build up this Freedom Charge, if Heretics aren't able to find early eliminations to see Shiki away from this fight, if they get past the team and get to go point to threaten the back cap, you are looking at a very fast flip potentially from Shiki. And Leolas is already fully on top of Beetle's position, stopping any dive shenanigans from hitting his backline early.
Heretics can't let anybody go down cheaply. It's going to force them to be right back, and you want to make sure that you can stall this out, because Shikigami looking more like Stikigami with how much they've been able to fight on that point. But this fight is looking already sort of done and dusted. Forcing out ultimates for Heretics, they mean they don't have really room to breathe. They've got to use these ultimates like the Royal Flush early. So for Shikigami, build it up. They're half of the percentage that we managed to make and the map down. We have time.
Yeah, and they'll have Portal back as well. Like, you build up Freedom Charge, you have Fate of Both Worlds from Lindstrom to accompany Kaya's Feast of the Abyss. Heretics have to rely on Cosmic Yawn Amplifier and just picks off of Enzo's poke and ult. And Shiki thinks that the time is now. Freedom Charge from Isidore lives the Banhammer, as Enzo still has not invested. He's biding his time, he's waiting, gets hit by the charm from Calf though, and Shiki have been able to brute force past Heretics front line.
He's taking a lot of damage, but he does have the Feast of the Abyss if he needs to hold on a bit more. Dance of the Butterfly is going to be used alongside Banhammer, and it is the Feast coming in actually from Leolas, who goes down to very low HP as the Galactic Legend is going to be used on the other side. One target in mind. Fate of Both Worlds not going to keep them up, but it is going to give Shikigami a chance to fight on the objective now. Rage of Ultron is going to be used. Feast of the Abyss. Everything that Heretics has, it has to come into play now as Kamiho is going to come through from Cav, pretty much brought down and then eliminated. So that shows the concentrated effort of Heretics when they have to focus on the right target. Feast of the Abyss now for Shikigami. It finds a pick, but it's going to find a touch on the point as 99% is going to be matched as overtime is going to loom. Cav is going to be the one looking over to switch over to Strange to contest this, and Heretics still have that in the back pocket if they need it to. Tanuki switching over to the Ultron has provided a lot for Heretics when it comes to the sustain, but they don't have the ultimates to be the difference maker other than a Royal Flush. Very close to being building up from Ken. The free strategist dropped down to 2 though, as Frostmountain's going to come back on the Jeff. A good eat here could end the map in the right place. You've got the heal puddle put down to make sure that people coming out of the portal are in a good position, but I don't know quite how many targets, if any, he's managed to get. But what he has done is he's pulled the Team Heretics' attention away from the objective into these little alcoves and these fights, which just seems to be suiting Heretics a little bit more. Frost Mountain trying to heal from distance, might need to close that distance in order to keep touching this point. As Shikigami's security has gone down, the safety net under safety net has been stripped apart one after the other, and a Banhammer might be the thing that ends it. We go to a third point.
Yeah, the changes from Heretics and more than enough to match the sustain. Like, you had the Rocket BRB to try to just bring players back if they were hit early by Shiki's dive, but the Rocket was so much of a target, and a lot of the time the person who was getting brought back via BRB was Ken, off of the amount of focus that the Gambit was earning. I really do like the fact that they've, like, kept the Star-Lord. but now use that Ultron as well. Tanuki's flexibility showing itself in full here as he moves on to the Ultron to still allow Heretics to have that stall potential, have the heals to be able to match what Shiki can output, but also the Rage of Ultron to be able to keep things like Frost Mountain in check. As this next fight will be starting off very quickly for Heretics. They've got the Gambit ult. They know that everyone from Shiki don't really have those resources outside of things like these symbiotic shenanigans. Lindstrom, Cav, both down from their ultimates. Heretics will look to hit fast and hit hard.
Deep breaths, everybody, because these first fights have lasted a good portion of time. The difference is that Shikigami not going to have the portal to work with to try to recontest this, and Heretics have been almost exclusively doing that, so they're going to have to sort of think of how they want to approach this point. Good news for Heretics, this point is very similar to the last in just how it's sort of set up. You've got the main pillar to be playing around, and multiple little alcoves to take this fight, as well as the high ground, which has been hotly contested by Enzo. The deep dive comes in as to try to group up for the Royal Flush to force people off of the objective, and Kaya just wants to keep that foot onto the objective, onto the point. It's his counterpart on the other side that goes down first as Lindstrom finds the CC in order to pick him. The problem, however, is the Team Heretics switching over to the White Fox triple strategist themselves have actually found the pick and the dive onto the back line, and Heretics for the first time flip the point first.
Yeah, Alex with that Spectral Surge able to keep on top of Kaya on this Venom much more easily. With the Charm connection, it means that the Venom's not able to freely engage and disengage, potentially even use the shields to be able to play their own life. Kaya can be a little bit more forward though, since he does have Feast of the Abyss for this next fight, and Heretics burned both the Ultron and the Gambit ult early, so Enzo buys the team space and time to build Alex's ult with the Banhammer. Shiki forced into actually using Lindstrom's ult, have to find an opportunity for damage boost capabilities, or that ult's done with very little value except from just walking from choke.
Kaya is very much like, my point, mine, go away everybody. Even the Feast of the Abyss is going to be dedicated, and he actually just get the connection onto Enzo that just seems to drop right into it. It seems like it's going to be pretty barren at that point, but that progression that was made on the point, or at least the turn that was attempted from Shikigami, going to be shut down as the Galactic Legend finds Kaya on the exit, and Heretics holding on to good portion, good ultimates, and Shikigami might start to be a little bit more stressed now with how this is going.
Yeah, such an early Luna ult. Gained very little value. You still does help the Freedom Charge, at least for Shiki to be able to engage off of. You have more sustain. It's Jeff actually invested before Alex uses that Kumeho Unleashed, so you don't go with the Freedom Charge first to force Alex to have to match the sustain and use the Jeff ult to counter it after, which means that Alex now gets free Fox ult.
Miho stomping through from Alex this time, gets frozen out as Cav has hers available, but maybe not a good chance to actually trade it out, like take a lot of damage, has to go and use it now, but the focus is there actually to make sure that this Camille ultimate isn't going to quite last the same amount of time. Managing to disengage at the very least is Alex, and now the Banhammer from Enzo, which has actually provided quite a lot in these like more scrappy fights where ultimates can't be relied on. That with the Rage of Ultron, two perfect ultimates to make sure that an even fight isn't quite even anymore. Shikigami running on fumes when it comes to ultimates. You can see Kaya already looming over towards the Strange to allow a portal play, but it hasn't felt close on this one. Heretics have been the ones that have actually kept their foot on the objective and really ushered Shikigami away from it. The portal might be there, and it's just in the lick of time. Requires Lindstrom to be the first to touch, which means that he has to be the one to deal with this endeavor that's thrown at him. Heretics showed that attrition is the name of their game as a reverse sweep on Celestial Husk.
Yeah, you can start to see the cracks showing, I think, from Shiki. They knew how to use the Jeff composition for stall, but it was totally a different story when they had to play it to retake. Honestly, if they're not going to play Gambit, I think going for a first save on Wolverine, the way that Rad would prioritize crazy kitties like Black Cat or Wolverine early in their ban draft, would allow them a much greater chance of building compositions around Frost Mountain.
See how this one is going to go for Shikigami. It's their map choice, and we do like full best of fives between these two teams. We'll see if it goes into that after this.
Shikigami.
I outnumber you. Your powers are mine!
Assemble! Sorry, soldier.
We are back, and so far this hasn't been a stroll on the beach for either team, but it could be a stroll on the beach for you. With the Loki Seaside Siren, White Fox Coastal Kumiho, and of course, the Captain America Seaside Sentinel. Ryan had a great joke yesterday of there's nothing more humiliating than being beaten over the head until you are sent back to spawn by an inflatable duck ring. But you can do so in your games with these skins all available now, so you can head into game and grab those yourself, including popping some balloons to try and grab them. But balloons aren't currently being raised for Shikigami, as the first map did go over to Heretics. But it wasn't easy, Moxie. This was a bit of a close game.
Yeah, no stroll, that's for sure. Marathon, I think, is more fitting of a description for how long the first 2 points went, at least. When we went to that third one, Heretics much more in control. The swaps that they did were very impactful, and I think like you saw the cracks from Shikigami. They knew how to stall with that composition. They knew how to play the long fights. They did not know how to play the retake.
And Ryan, Naga with the MVP there. We were talking, Moxie just mentioned it. There were some really good swaps from Heretics this game.
It had to be, yeah, because it felt like the whole idea of their composition, they were still trying to go for the triple strategist to begin with, just moving things around to make sure that Naga was on this and Tanuki was able to go into the Ultron. Looked to be the difference maker, because it was the likes of Rage of Ultron, Banhammer, just really beating down Shikigami's like big ultimates, big cooldowns to really give Naga the space to go in with the Galactic Legends. So I do like the sort of switch around. Like Heretics are very good and flexible at changing stuff on the spot, even if they're a little bit slow to adapt. We have to say that Shikigami coming out in the right idea. The main thing is, like Moxie mentioned, is it worth protecting a Gambit if you don't really have the intention of using it? If you want to go for triple strategist, you're not going to get the Mantis. Heretics is certainly not going to let that happen. But is it worth even getting stuff like the Wolverine protected because Frost Mountain has been so key on it?
It is a good question, but the Gambit has been so instrumental to these teams. It's going to be bucking at their heads. Like you say, they could get their hands on that Wolverine, but if suddenly your draft just plays out perfectly into a Gambit draft, how much are you leaving on the table? It's a tough situation to be in, Moxie.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, though, Frost Mountain has been able to shut down Star-Lords with Gambit before on the Wolverine, and Shiki, like, they used Fastball. Their last series went 5 full maps versus Strays because for the last 3 maps, they just leaned on Fastball. That was the reverse sweep that they sort of just worked out, okay, we're a Wolverine team, East was a really strong Hulk player, let's just go for Fastball and use it to totally shut down the front line from our opponent. You don't have to have Gambit to be able to enable that. So I think, honestly, for Shiki, it's about identifying your specific strengths as opposed to playing to the meta that a lot of teams are conforming to.
Shikigami looking to maybe rub some salt into the wound from yesterday, where Heretics just missed out on qualifying for those mid-season finals versus Virtus Pro. So Shikigami looking to take them there for map number 2. Can they bring it back? I leave you with Ryan Central and Moxie to find out.
See what the Shikigami coach of Kaf's Cats said in the break. See if there's going to be any changes with the draft. I mean, They were interesting with how they were sort of going for the one-sided, like, invisible woman, which makes sense if you're going for the fastball. It's one of the sort of main counters. Looks like the first ban isn't going to be any different so far, and yeah, they're still going to protect the Gambit. I don't think this is too much of, like, a big issue that they're making, but you would like to see them, like, use Gambit considering it's available.
Yeah, and Heretics, I'm sure, will follow up with a ban onto the Wolverine as soon as they are able to, once they've just removed issues of, like, the Rocket that you have to be concerned about, Gambit, Rocket, Star-Lord, not free heroes that you want to see making it through the draft, because it just makes your job so much harder. You have to get the eliminations as, yep, there we go. Heretics, yet again, prioritizing the Wolverine even above the Rocket that Shikigami have not so far played. As Heretics now get the opportunity to go for a save, is this the Rocket themselves so they can secure it one-sided yet again? Nope, Captain America.
I mean, it means that you have the sustain and dive to jump onto the point, and, well, it's sort of looking like Beetle has been one of the best Captain Americas in the region. One of the players on this roster that hasn't attended an international event and looking to change that, as he is the only player that wasn't on that Citadel roster now, with the addition of Ken coming back over from the Americas region back onto this team under a different banner. Rocket is going to be the final ban for Shikigami. Might want to protect it here to get it one-sided, or they might want to make sure that this is as mirrored as it can be by getting the Captain America themselves for Acedo.
Yeah, freedom charge, and like you said, the stall potential of even if you lose a fight, at least you can stall the objective to secure taking the next one when you're on a more even footing, or potentially even full advantage ultimate economy with your opponent. Heretics now might decide to match the Rocket ban as well, since one-sided BRB is not a fun thing to have to contest, plus Phoenix being out of the meta entirely from the nerfs that she has means that Cosmic Yarn Amplifier has become that much harder to break. No Wolverines, Daredevil still available for both of these teams. It is Midtown. This is one of the more harder maps to be able to pull off dive on, but we shall see. As something to note as well, Ryan, is that full stall strats available for both of these teams. Loki, Adam, untouched in the draft alongside that invisible woman. We know that Heretics will go for a triple strat outlook on their defense, but do Shikigami decide to match the way that they rolled out on triple strat earlier?
It's a bit of a mixed map. Heretics have actually lost the last game that they played on it.
Come on, Leolaz.
Pro.
Do it. Swamp showed the way.
It would be stellar. And I mean, we know that there's been a lot more communication, shall we say, a lot more scrims from across the pond, also into Pacific as well. Like the Pacific, like Oceanic teams have been scrimming Europe teams. I would say who.
Well, the anti-heal as well, right? How do you beat a team that relies on so much healing? You apply
made too much
anti-heal,
sense
but
that he switched off of it.
I mean, it's okay because Kraken Impact is also one of those things which can keep up with the amount of revives that Heretics will have at their disposal. Plus, you can hook players out of things like Invisible Boundary. We've seen Shiki in the past utilize this Bucky to just grab players out of position, depositing them behind Kaya's walls to break line of sight so that the backline will not be able to save those who get grabbed.
Now, I think a lot of focus goes onto the front lines for both these teams. Like Kaya versus Beetle as a head-to-head is the one to watch, because Groot can find a huge amount of value blossom in the right situations if he is left to his own devices. But the longer that these first fights go for, if it's not going Shikigami's way, the worse it's going to be, because Ken is already 64% of the way built up to having his ultimate. Naga's behind, but it does mean that Ken has the option if he wants to go for the camera revival or the invisible boundary. Doesn't matter. Feels like he's got that available to him, but that strangling prison on the side of Shikigami. Kaya was getting very close, but Enzo's full focus takes him out, which might have really set this up for Team Heretics to dig their heels in.
Yeah, it's a slow crawl for Shikigami, unless they can just grab players out of position and follow up with the vulnerability of Cap's Terror Cape. Like, force Loki Lamps from Ken, force Soul Bond from the Adam Warlock, and only then can you truly commit to walking. Ken's got that ultimate. ready to go. Will likely go for a copy onto Alex. Brought on by the Strangling Prison wombo combo of Kraken Impact. They're looking to put the pressure onto the Adam, forcing the Soul Bomb before Kaya uses that ult. And there's the elimination onto the Invisible Woman. Ken copying the Sue as opposed to the Adam. That might be a mistake that Heretics pay for in the long run.
And that was Frost Mountain just being an absolute pest in the backline. His dive, he disengaged. The focus shifted from Heretics to try to maybe deal with him, and that's where the Strangling Prison was dropped in. Lindstrom goes for the copy himself to see if he can actually push this onwards with the Eternal Bond, and things start trucking along finally for Shikigami. You do have a camera revival 10% of the way there, but Shikigami having plenty to work with.
Heretics burned Cocoon. So if you lose the Adam halfway through the ult and Frost Mountain being on that Daredevil, like, Calf can use Eternal Bond to drive deep into Heretic space to deny any safe position of using that Adam ult. This could very quickly be cut short.
Tanuki is on the Magneto having the Meteor M. He's not got a big ultimate to be eaten, but Silent Seduction is going to be the thing that's going to force out whatever is available for Shikigami first. It's going to pull Frost Mountain out of position, and that has provided maybe a window for Naga to sit back if the ultimates are needed. The Eternal Bond is going to leap in from Cav to try to give some more offensive options, as well as the lamps from Loki. That regeneration domain is going to have those copies bring up that healing as much as they possibly can in this engagement, but Heretics holding on, not needed to use any much more outside of the Psionic Seduction, but Shikigami also trying to combine these ultimates together. Let the Devil Out is going to bring out that Meteor M in hand. He's just trying to find the right target. Hits the brunt of Groot's face and doesn't find the elimination off the back of it, but the other Vanguards find the picks with just a dive in on the fight. Shikigami losing out on numbers, and that time Wick is burnt down to 40 seconds.
This, I mean, with the speed that these fights go on Triple Strat, this could very well be last fight before Desperation Strange TP. Leylaz has to get the Kraken Impact of all Kraken Impacts to be able to shut down through Ken's copied Invisible Boundary into that Soul Bond. A hook blocked masterfully by Beetle as Ken actually goes for an early Loki copy. And gets the cloak and dagger. Eternal Bond pushes Shiki all the way back. They can't simply disengage something static like the boundary, and that forces regeneration domain from Lindstrom too.
It's a couple of those moments that we've seen. Ken is very good at just being like, this is mine now. The copy's going to come in for Eternal Bond for Lindstrom. He's just going to wait to use it, see if he gets up some more of the kit from Cloak and Dagger. Notably, some of the anti-heal from the Terror Cape as the Kraken's Impact is finally going to get used from Leylaz. You have the Karmic Revival though for Naga. He's going to have that Life Cocoon back at this rate. He went down pretty low HP, and the combinations aren't quite bopping along for Leylaz. He's only got one reset as the Eye of Agamotto's going to come through. Doesn't connect onto anybody, but it is going to force Shikigami into some more precarious positions that have actually turned into their advantage. They're finding the picks, but Camera Revival's brought back too, and you're very close to having a Psionic Seduction. That is about it. As soon as it was available for Seador, he brought it out. Same with Eternal Bond for Calf now, as they want to really push back these players. There's maybe an Invisible Boundary just available for Alex. As soon as he gets it, it's going to go down just on the edge of this point, but you've got the big picks actually from all of Shikigami finding these eliminations. Even the Meteor M doesn't find much as Frost Mountain just gets into the face of Tanuki. The stall is going to run out of options, and Shikigami get it across the first checkpoint.
Kaya totally cooks through that Invisible Boundary with Feast of the Abyss. So many people hit with anti-heals that Shiki have the damage to be able to punch through the boundary uptime and break it early, because that came real close. Like, Heretics was starting to stall, starting to gain players back with the potential of a Strange TP play, but Shiki pushed through into second, and now the stall comp swaps to something that's looking a little bit more deadly, as you've got the Cyclops instead of the Adam for the poke, and Tanuki on the Daredevil to match where exactly Frost Mountain tries to set up these flanks.
Yeah, and so not going to have much help with like mitigating some of the damage coming through, as I mean the bludgeoning from Daredevil that's about to come in from the Let the Devil Out. Actually, eliminations going onto the other side as the counter dive comes through, taking out the backline that has changed faces a little bit as well for Shikigami, going more towards 2-2-2, but also switching over to the Luna White Fox instead of this Cloak and Dagger. You have the team up, sure, but it feels a little bit more brittle for your backline, especially when you've got Tanuki diving in on the Daredevil. The scrappiness is seemingly only suiting Team Heretics on this defense.
Yeah, I mean, Shiki start walking away with the eliminations of Frost Mountain's ult, but they're not actually walking away with the objective, because Beetle on that cap just stalls and lives and builds Freedom Charge in the duration. So Heretics can go first aggressively with Ken's ultimate. Shiki having tried to answer back with Freedom Charge, but they've lost the Daredevil on the kite before the extra armor comes through. And Heretics will be able to hold their position as Shiki are forced back. Late pick onto Beetle though, so no Freedom Charge for Heretics to cycle into. If Lindstrom uses the ult, Alex will be forced to match with Fate of Both Worlds.
44 seconds left, and we're just passing 100 meters here as the payload has to really sort of get into the lower parts of Midtown. Silent Seduction goes out on Kai to try to pull people back right into the face of the Ruby Rage. It doesn't quite get the eliminations, but it's forcing out free ultimates all at the same time, including the Ruby Rage on the other side. Fate of Both Worlds is the thing that kept people alive, but as soon as it ended, Tanuki finds his demise and his way back into spawn. Beetle trying to chase him with a Freedom Charge, gets frozen. The path to extra sustain not quite there as the Sea Dog gets his revenge onto the other side. And Shikigami finally fighting back a little bit more. Calf over on his White Fox allows a little bit more of a hold W and win playstyle, and that managed to have maybe bring up this fight. If it wasn't for the portal, like you mentioned, a switch over for Tanuki this time. We saw some theatrics from Fi here yesterday, and Tanuki is 60% of the way building up an Eye of Agamotto. Already Shikigami's like, don't let that happen again. Try to find the right focuses. They go for Enzo first. They find on pick onto Beetle. And finally, it seems that it's just leaving the Strange until last. Everybody else has dipped and dropped. And Shikigami, with 90 seconds left, are aiming for the final part of this map.
Yeah, but they're running out of time. That's what Heretics are known for when we play these convoy and convergence maps. Take so many fights, be so hard to totally wipe off, even if you're losing, have the cap to be able to stall the objective, that it forces your opponent time on time again into the OT, and Beetle's up to his old tricks. I mean, this guy at this point has to rename to Cockroach with how hard it is for Shiki to be able to fully take him down. And it's buying Heretics so much time. That's already a minute of Shikigami's time bank, and they've barely pushed the cart past Fist Building.
I mean, this is a part where, like Davis Castanede sort of mentioned stuff about invertebrates and all of this sort of like scientific mumbo jumbo, but for me, it's just smash and grab for Shikigami, as it's just a brawl in the streets of Manhattan. Seeing if Shikigami can edge this further forward if they possibly can, as Heretics' ability to stall things out is looking a little bit lackluster at the moment. Tanuki's so close to having the devil out, but he is being ushered away, pushed out of these ratty positions, and in fact taken out in the neutral as the dive comes in with the Fate of Both Worlds. It's a lot of sustain and even a lot of eliminations going the way of Team Heretics now, and that's on to a Luna Snow with her ultimate available too. Kaya low, trying to keep a touch on it, keep the overtime wick burning, but everybody's gone down. At least it's provided that opportunity, but I don't see anybody, at least on screen, looking to get even close to touching the objective. Frost Mountain on the transit gets taken out. Fate of Both Worlds has to be the thing that comes in, as well as the Feast of the Abyss that's just allowing a touch and time for the portal. You're even throwing a Devil Dinosaur in there for good measure. It's not quite on your left, it's just rah rah rah. I don't know what noises Devil Dinosaurs make when they jump through portals. I'm not built for these moments, but Shikigami certainly are. Kamiho's going to be the thing that kind of runs all the way through, as it's just an animal farm for Shikigami, seeing if they can get a couple more meters onto the point. Galactic Legend Ofanaga is going to be the thing looming in on the sky, but the Bloody Barrier is still useful even now. Not quite to keep Kath and Lindstrom alive though, as they're going to be picked off with the focus, the coordination. This clap that comes in from Team Heretics might have clapped their way to stalling out this defense just shy of the third checkpoint, and they do so. Shikigami making good work, but Heretics have a line in the sand to cross.
Yeah, something, 1,000 cuts from the side of Heretics when you're playing into this team. You know what you're in store for. Honestly, it's such a good Fate of Both Worlds. Like, half a second swaps to the damage boost for Enzo to totally snap through Lindstrom, who gets absolutely just chumped by that Feast of the Abyss. Goes down with the ult intact, so Shiki forced to just desperately throw Kaya at the objective, literally, with the Venom dive and then the Luna ult on top to sustain the team long enough for the Strange swap and the portal, but that means that you don't have the Luna ult to stand up to the Galactic Legend, and Heretics are able to just stall out the objective, not allow it free distance, still keep the Starlord up off of some really nifty iframes as well through the Galactic Legend, and punishing the lack of grounding beam that the Devil Dinosaur has lost. But Shiki say, anything you can do, will try to do better, as it will be a stall composition from Shiki on their own defense. Now it's up to Heretics to be able to break this fast.
It's a fun one to be watching as a neutral, but I imagine both these teams are stressing out a bit more, and they would have another game to go if they do win out this best of 5 to try to qualify for mid-season alongside Na'Vi and Virtus Pro. Heretics, you almost sort of expect them to be writing their name on the list in pencil tentatively, but weirder things have happened in Europe, and we've certainly had these upsets. I see it. I see it. Tanuki's doing it. If there's going to be a weird character coming out and play for EMEA, it's going to be him. He's not going to be the first to do it in EMEA, but sort of across globally, but he is going to be the first to do it in EMEA. Tanuki showing a little bit of respect, I suppose, to some of the other teams that he might be meeting at mid-season finals if this all goes to plan.
Well, no 1,000 cuts, but definitely 1,000-fold slash that Tanuki is trying to build up to pair alongside Enzo strangling Prison to slice through the properties of that invisible boundary that Kaf is able to build, but Heretics will have to hold off. They lose the Blade, they lose the Cyclops, no duelists in this fight. It's time to disengage without losing more players and losing more time. Full regroup assembled, Tanuki's off to the races, up onto the high ground to go clear out Leolaz.
Just trying to get the stacks built up in the end. I Am Groot is going to be used, struggling Prison for Kaya. Not seeing the eliminations. Oh, there we go. Just a little bit afterwards onto Beetle, but the walls are certainly showing that's more of the problematic areas. Ken goes for the copy to try to get the Royal Flush. It's going to look a little bit more potent, especially when you got Alex that might combine it into two of a kind straight afterwards. 1,000 cuts for Tanuki, though. Let's see exactly what the action's going to be. It might not even be needed because everybody's gone down. The Counter Revival is brought back free. So Tanuki going to crack his knuckles, show that there's only ever been one blade potentially. Maybe not. I feel like I'm just being baited out, just waiting for the moment to finally see it outside of a Zombies game, Moxie. But Tanuki is holding on to it.
I mean, he's just using the sustainability of the lifesteal to go body check the Vanguard, splitting Shiki's backline totally away from being able to keep up the Cap, the Groot, or the Mag. Having the damage reduction off of the block, there's the 1,000-fold slash invested in main. Lindstrom reacting with the regeneration domain, able to keep Shiki up though, and Kaya takes the blade down.
Yeah, it's a bit of a go quietly into the night moment, but at the very least, Heretics have been moving forward. It hasn't been the flashiest, it doesn't need to be. Tanuki has a job to do, and he's going to do it, whether it's on a character we barely see or not. But Strangler Prison now going to be used on both sides to keep things sustained and simple. But Shikigami using a Freedom Charge allows them to sort of try and survive a little bit more out, but it's not going to matter. Zenzo has found himself too, onto the backline no less. I don't know if there's going to be time for Laylas to go in for this portal. There should be, as he's going to be the one to sort of bring it back in, but this might be a bit more of a staggered approach. There is a little bit of a window of time. And doing it towards that, they have a bit of a chance to hold on for Kaf, who was one of the last to go down. You're right. Visible Boundary is going to be thrown in as soon as it possibly can, and that finds a pick onto Enzo. For ultimates for Heretics, yes, you're very close to having the God of Mischief that might go in for a copy to go for the Royal Flush. See if this attack can actually hold W and bully these players from Shikigami off of the objective. And with a blade, it's not going to matter too much because Leolas's Maelstrom finds quite a lot in the end. Ruby Rage very close, as well as your own God of Mischief that could go for another copy of an Invisible Boundary. That would be nice for Lindstrom if it allows to sustain, but luckily he might not even need to have it in hand, as Heretics sort of ran out some of those more offensive capabilities, trying to go back in now that they have that Royal Flush, but it's a bit of an in and out prospect. It doesn't really feel that they have that like go in moment that Shikigami have built up. They've gone for the copy, and he's gone for their own Royal Flush on the other side.
Yeah, Lindstrom got the match to Alex. So now it's all even, but you do have more poke with the Cyclops, more pick potential. Ruby Rage connects onto so many players from Shiki who are funneled up on that one side of objective, trying to play it safe and keep that position on the objective. Feast of the Abyss from Beetle should seal Shiki's fate. No more portal for stall to allow Kaf to come back with a saving Invisible Boundary. By the skin of their teeth, Heretics send us to second.
And this continues on. Whilst we have a moment, Blade, Midtown, Moxie, why? As quick as he can, because we have a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, we do have somewhat breathing room. I mean, like I said, we're seeing him just invested much you would see like the Wolverine to be able to go put pressure on the Vanguards. And just like the Wolverine has the passive to proc to be able to keep himself safe and not rely as heavily on team resources, Blade also has both the lifesteal but also the damage reduction from the block, right? So Tanuki's pushing Shikigami back, splitting a lot of their Vanguards from the backline, which is depriving Lindstrom and Kaf of these opportunities of having first ults ahead of Ken and Alex.
Trying to build it up all the way if he can. He's doing the damage at the very least, but he doesn't want to be really shooting his gun. If he can get close in with the blades, as the namesake, that's where he wants to be trying to fight. And Shikigami have to sort of respect it, as you sort of see it. Certainly with the group walls, getting stuck between a rock and a pointy place is going to be very tough for Shikigami on his defense. Could spell the end. Freedom Charge is going to be the one dedicated to allow that more defensive fight to come in, but 1,000 Cuts is going to come in on the other side. It's more of like a get out of there moment for Shikigami, but I aren't seeing the eliminations come quite in, as somehow Kaya's managed to survive a good portion of time up until the very end. Like Frost Mountain is actually the one to go down, as Ruby Rage from Layla's is going to find a pick over onto Enzo. That Freedom Charge did a lot to keep Shikigami going, because both strategist ultimates are available now.
Yeah, job done. Tanuki's like, okay, I forced Shikigami to have to walk all the way back on first, give up a lot of space, allow us to take those fights very close to the checkpoint, so we can try and overwhelm with things like the double Gambit ult fight. Now, you're going on to Daredevil to match Frost Mountain's flank. You don't want Shikigami to have one-sided information, especially because that means they can catch your rotations. They will know if you try to push main, if you try to push sides, they'll be able to set up and catch you first. Ken, with that Gambit ult copy, actually baits Cap into using Invisible Boundary fairly early, which means that he just cancels the ult and holds on to it for once Boundary's fallen.
Yeah, he actually just uses it right at the end there, and you've got Alex that has his own Royal Flush, but Laylas has found the pick onto Naga, so suddenly this like almost unprecedented advantage that Team Heretics have to put them on top hasn't quite worked out now. There comes the second ultimate that is going to be matched from Lindstrom this time, and Tanuki's the one to go down. Laylas is just finding the picks at the perfect time. It couldn't be better for Shikigami on this defense as Frost Mountain has been unleashed. He did have to let the Devil out available. The ultimate could have been handy, but he didn't feel the need to have it in hand. Heretics now might need to go for something to try to touch, and Portal is going to be very much on the last second. If it wasn't for Naga, I think throwing himself onto the objective right at the end, it means that there's a player down. 3 versus 2 on the point in favor of Heretics, actually. A Shikigami trying to use this as a chance to try to regroup. They don't have to sustain. They don't have these strategist ultimates, but neither do Heretics. You're waiting for that Ruby Rage to come in. It's getting lined up alongside the Devil ultimate for Daredevil. There's the pick up to Tanuki, and Laylas finds himself another first blood in these fights. The Vanguards both using these ultimates offensively and defensively. His Freedom Charge, Silent Seduction going to be used in tandem, and Frost Mountain actually goes down. Shikigami hesitated, it felt like. Yeah, they didn't have these big ultimates to turn the fight into their favor, but neither did Heretics, and now you're just providing them an opportunity to spring this forward, and they're pushing towards the end of this checkpoint.
Cap will have Invisible Boundary to stand up to Galactic Legend. She's going to have to use it on the objective. Everyone from Shiki perfectly placed themselves within the confines of the boundary. And once it drops, you'll have Freedom Charge. And Heretics step off the point.
Oh, we're going to have to sort of look back at that one in the end. I think it was very key ultimate from Cav. Naga wanted to try to intercept people making their way back in, and it just seemed to like miss out. Too much of a focus, too scrappy, but it does honor up the series 1-all. Means the Heretics have to make a bit of a longer approach to this one, but it was a best of 5 last time, as I keep mentioning. We'll see where Heretics want to go, as their choice is going to be Convergence after this quick break.
We are back and we're sitting at a beautiful even score as Shikigami bring it back despite the attempt of Blade to burst on through. Shikigami are able to tank it out. We've been talking about just how good Beetle is at delaying these points, how good Beetle is at just trying to create any kind of distraction as they can. In fact, even called a cockroach due to how hard they are to take out during that last game. If we're doing that, then potentially the front line of Shikigami in that last map should be called Water Bears, because they were just impossible to take out, Mox.
Yeah, impossible to take out. We've finally found a team that can stand up to the sheer staying power of Heretics. Like, it is essentially just unstoppable object meets immovable force between these two teams. Both of them running triple strategists, both of them refusing flat out to lose a fight off of sheer stubbornness and force of will, and the triple strategists and all of the healing that comes through within. But the MVP will go to Kaya, both for his performance on the EMEA, but honestly, on the attack, the Venom. Like 41 eliminations, some of them being with Feast of the Abyss, helped out by Fate of Both Worlds for that damage boost capabilities, just meant that they were able to do what Heretics were not. Finish off the fights and push the objective more distance.
There's not just that, but there's also the sheer protection they were able to give. We even saw Tanuki coming in when they were on that triple Vanguard, coming in on a Doctor Strange for a while. And yet, Ryan, Kaya was always there to protect the team.
Yeah, leading from the front as well. Like, you've got a good matchup with like the Groots on either side, but switch over to EMEA just provided a little bit more like going power. Isidore, like both of the Captain Americas just doing their job. It's why it's been somewhat of a focus in getting available in drafts or banning out on the other side. But like moving on to like the sort of like convergence maps where like stall is going to become a lot more prominent. I imagine that like Heretics aren't going to be too phased by like dropping this map. They did drop it yesterday. It could be a bit of an area to look at before they get to mid-season finals, if they get to mid-season finals, mind you, because of how it went against Virtus Pro yesterday. But like that's in the past. You have to focus on how much of a long series this is going to be and try to find these like different openings, because that was a draft where it was like mirrored on both sides. There was no character that was available to one or the other. Both teams had the exact same characters available, which wasn't a Wolverine, which wasn't a Rocket. Need to find some opportunities elsewhere perhaps for Heretics if they want to keep things going.
That was also Shiki using Gambit, right?
Yeah.
They went for the first save on Gambit. First round, did not use it once. Like, not even when they started losing the round did they swap to it. They just stayed with the triple strategist and the Jeff. This time, they saved the Gambit. They do use it. I think, honestly, another, like, call that I would have given for MVP was Kaf. Her invisible boundaries, one for Shiki to be able to stall out first, and then the last will have to go back and see from her exact POV what the heck happened within that invisible boundary, because it comes up to defend versus the Galactic Legend. We don't get to see into it. We're following Star-Lord POV with the ultimate, and suddenly the map ends. So Heretics might have like stepped away because they're worried about the slow. It could have been a force physics from Kaf as well to just push everyone off of it, and no surprises. Stall will continue. Triple strategist, very much the spice of the week as we head to Lower Manhattan, a map that Heretics were able to totally slow and stall Virtus Pro on yesterday.
Yeah, Moxie brought it up. This is a very delay-focused pair of teams right now, and we're heading to one of the hardest maps to push on in. So, because the game might take forever, we'll get into it early so that you can all go to bed tonight. So, thank you all very much from myself. I will peace out and leave you with Ryan Central at God Boxing.
Neither team has lost on this map, as we've sort of been mentioning. Heretics did win against Virtus Pro here yesterday, and we also saw Shikigami beating Fire Strays here in a long best of 5, much like preseason, and also beating Reason Gaming, another team that was eliminated yesterday, but that was over in the group stages in Group B, where Shikigami, you've got to say, weren't really tested that much in their group stage. The only team that managed to get a win over them were the ones that they're facing right now in Team Heretics. So this is likely going to be the same sort of compositions. Just a quick snack if you want one. No, Beetle's fine. He doesn't want it. Naga always, like, he's always a strategist in heart. He's there to support his team as much as possible.
True, actually, yeah. Strategist both in-game and off the field. As I think it's very important, like, both of these teams understand this is not a sprint. This has the potential of being a 5-map series. I think we're expecting it to go a 5-map series. So being fueled, being ready to push through a very grueling matchup will be very important, as if one team runs out of steam, they are sadly ran out of their chances of attending mid-season. But hey, brilliant news for all of you at home if you're watching with your account linked. If this series goes long, you'll easily be able to grab up all of our drops and cosmetics.
Yeah, there's going to be a rehost of the server because somebody picked the wrong map, which is fine. I gotta say as well, I'm a little bit, like, tiny bit biased towards Heretics qualifying because I would imagine, like, Tanuki's mum would be at mid-season finals as well, and she, like, has some, like, banger cosplays as well. Like, she had a grand final, so, like, there's always that. It's always just, like, the extra people that these teams bring along, but also Shikigami. We're looking at, like, the likes of Rad and stuff, like the Chopped players being very shy of qualifying for grand finals as being potentially, like, the third best team in the region at that point. Shikigami and Rad, they deserve their flowers at some point. The problem is that you have 3 partnership powerhouse teams in front of you that are the heavy favorites. Now would be a good time to try to cause the same kind of upset that Rad did by beating VP in preseason, but the draft, I imagine, to begin with Moxie, exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams likely equipped with both the Loki and the Adam and the Invisible Woman for this draft to have for their defense, so purely just a case of who can beat the stall composition faster. Unless we see any major shakeups, I imagine that would come from Heretics' end. As we said, like, everyone that we talk to for interviews always go on about Line Pro cooking up weird compositions, weird drafts, but from both of these teams, they have very similar strengths outside of Shikigami relying on that fastball, which is why we see the continuation of the ban out from Wolverine from both of these teams, as if you're running a stall strategy and you have 3 Vanguards on the field, letting a Wolverine through is the last thing that you want to have to handle.
Seeing if Heretics now, final ban of Daredevil, protected the Captain America, it's looking pretty even, which I think just from what we saw for Shikigami, you're going to take these mirror matchups.
Yeah.
Because it feels like you're sort of more available to it. You've shown that you can actually combine well with the Gambit on your side if you ever need to. And so Shikigami going into this map, similar to the last, very even draft, no differences anywhere.
Yeah, and Shiki, they'll be happy about this, right? Because both teams used stall strats on their defense of Midtown, and Shiki were the team to come out on top. So really for Heretics, it's a case of, do we adjust our draft? Which means, like, do we try to find a place of removing something like that Loki potentially, but then you let the Rogue slide with the Gambit in play, or you let the Wolverine through with Frost Mountain in play, or you let one-sided Daredevil through, which makes it very easy for Shikigami to be able to get around your triple Vanguards and go for the hits on the backline before they've been able to build up that cache of ultimates to fully stall out a lot of these fights. So for both of them, full mirror drafts, it really is just a case of play better.
Any coordinated claps? I haven't seen any. Might be just so focused on locking in that they just want to make sure that this goes into play, but Team Heretics are used to playing in this fashion, and difference to preseason. You've got Ken that's on the roster and Oasis going over to Sentinels and not been played, and Sentinels didn't qualify. I'm not saying that those two things coordinate, but already
that's
a
not
play.
free. Shiki on the defense, not fielding free. 2-2. Heretics going to be portaling with Enzo on the Strange before swapping.
They did this yesterday too.
Emma to be able to rejoin the team. So you already have, like, presence behind the point if you want to be able to put pressure on Lindstrom, potentially break Cap's BRB early as well, as Beetle on the Cap has been scouted out. Shiki having to turn attention and clear the Cap does allow Heretics the opportunity of pushing for point now, though.
Lindstrom setting up with a clone, see if there's a little mini crossfire that can be set up to build up this God of Mischief. And there has been both of these teams actually with the Loki going for steals on the other side. So Lindstrom not just having access to the Yan Amplifier, might be looking to see if he can get a Royal Flush picked out of the back pocket of Ken. who's trying to build it up at a pretty low pace. Team Heretics tried to go for like this sort of setup, but the one main thing that's noticeable is we're a minute into this one, Moxie. Ultimates, but not even over 50%. Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, Shiki just having to clear. They hurt the portal from Heretics. They have to make sure without Daredevil, you don't know who's gone through it before turning your attention back to this point. So slow burn of a fight. Tanuki does get the pick off onto Leolaz before he's held in position with a great Carbon Crush from Kaya, long enough for Frost Mountain to be able to complete the trade. Shiki, though, they actually lost the BRB, it looks like, from Cav. Was not in position to bring Leolaz back, who now swaps onto the Psylocke just for the speed to be able to rejoin his team before Heretics get aggressive and walk onto point.
At this point, you can never really make heads or tails of when is the entrance, where is the exit, but Heretics have managed to find themselves a third and another pick onto Kaya. Though Bira back is still not going to be into play, so Shikigami is starting to look a little bit more stressed out. If it wasn't for the ultimates that are about to be available, it's going to be actually beaten Pete to the post. The Yarn Amplifier is going to be used, but the Royal Flush in hands from Ken is just providing a bit more of a bully presence on this objective. Freedom Charge not quite built up yet for a Cedar, but very close. Portal has to even be used from Kaya, and maybe Heretics are like, we've got 2/3. We can be a little bit more patient here. We're going to force out these ultimates from Shikigami, including the Freedom Charge. But no, they try to go in with a Fate of Both Worlds on the other side. Glortrox is going to try to be pulled in and pulled to use. The Fate of Both Worlds is just trying to awkwardly chase to keep the players up, and it manages to succeed. Frostmountain gets caught by the Glortrox this time, and it allows into more picks as Tanuki's going to use this Galactic Legend, finds the eliminations off of a Freedom Charge, keeping everybody going, and the point is flipped. Shikigami hold on for a good portion of time, but maybe not enough.
Yeah, no proper stall from Shiki as they now move away from that Loki rocket to Gambit rocket. Lindstrom. Oh, wait, maybe not. Lindstrom actually opts for the Luna as Leolaz gains the team up with Cap for that additional iframe and teleport. Lindstrom on the Luna now supplies extra stability though for Isidore. The staying power of the Captain America with the 35% heal siphon is going to be brutal for Heretics to have to dispatch. So early aggression from Enzo on the high ground, forcing Kaya back with the Sonic Seduction, burning out the BRB very early on.
He was trying to just get into the face of the Silent Seduction, wasn't going to be pulled in from the Emma copy on the other side, being in the crystal form. So Layla's seen if he can sort of push back this Captain America, who just dives from one fight into the other. It just seems like he hasn't really had a good break, but he doesn't need it when Heretics are being able to build so much momentum. This point where things usually get stalled out on is looking very loose from Shikigami as they've failed to really put a foot onto the objective to stop things. Now with a pick onto Beetle, things might help out a little bit more and manage to make things on the point a bit more even, as there's going to be one player managing to stall out. But the ultimates, yeah, you've got Cav that's built up the Yarn Amplifier on one side. The team up between Luna and Emma tried to force a shield and force people out with these almost like group wall-esque things, and then the Royal Flush waiting to see when that Yarn Amplifier is going to come in. Immediately the Yarn Amplifier is deleted straight up from Tanuki as he barrages in onto the backline. So many bodies to try to hold on, and one elimination going up against Kaya. Veer back means it's going to be in, and the Fate of Both Worlds means that everybody else for Shikigami is going to try to sustain this out a little bit more. It's looking better on this defense, but Heretics banking up ultimates again, including the Fate of Both Worlds Galactic Legends.
That's a crucial pick onto Tanuki. He makes it back to his team. He waits Lindstrom's ult. He comes in with Galactic Legend, and Heretics will be able to push Shiki back. Now they get the opportunity of finding early picks with poke pressure from the swap of Frost Mountain, moving on to the Cyclops. Kaya forcing out Fate of Both Worlds from Alex with the Psionic Seduction. So Heretics now reduced to just having the Freedom Charge. Huge ult cancel onto Ruby Rage though. Great grab from Kaya.
Fantastic, really, but it means that Naga's going to have it up in some time. You've also got a Cedar that used the Freedom Charge as that Galactic Legend was going to be used in on both sides. It's really traded out very little. It's just in the neutral fights. Akai's been taken out from Ken as halfway to building up another Royal Flush. Shikigami not running a Gambit again. This time around it is 2-2-2 setup, and the BR back means that Frost Mountain's quick exit is going to be a re-entrance very soon. Side seduction from Enzo wants to be the thing to potentially close this out as everybody from Shikigami is starting to drop. The portal has come in, sure, but a second checkpoint has been hit, and Shikigami not going to be touching that portal again.
Yeah, but not a lot of time left to be able to full push this map. So Heretics requiring early pressure onto Shiki to stop the objective from being contested. If he still slips past them, it will be problematic. And Enzo's actually been instrumental in being able to shut the Captain America's stall down as Tanuki reads out the positions of the backline. Eastall can't go for the objective, has to clear the Star-Lord to keep his backline safe, but that just frees up main. Ruby Rage got CC cancelled, but like you said, that just means it comes back into this next fight faster, and Shiki are not equipped to survive it.
And all of these different ranges suiting Cyclops to a T. Royal Flush Galactic Legend means that combo is going to be a pretty easy one to set up. Shikigami, you're way off of having anything. Maybe a Fate of Both Worlds to try to deal with it, but that's the only sustain you'll have.
I mean, Lindstrom, at least, like you said, will have Fate of Both Worlds to try to live Ken's Royal Flush, and then Cap should be able to keep pace, or actually achieve it before Tanuki builds up that Galactic Legend. Lindstrom with the Luna ult means that Shiki hold their space, and they turn their attention to Eastall, who's out of the reach of the Luna AoE, so that objective continues moving closer.
And it means that you've forced out the Fate of Both Worlds, so Galactic Legends is free reign in the sky. Fisk's end of his empire here as Tanuki is trying to settle his position up. It's a good freeze, but it feels like the damage is going to be already done against Shikigami. Invisible Boundary trying to sustain this, and you're very much just jumping out from your spawns into the fray if you can actually get there and help it. But Acido's going to be pulled out of the Invisible Boundary, and the spawn doors are going to be held. Doesn't matter how many freezes are starting to come through. Even a Galactic Legend isn't going to be enough to stop this from hitting the end. And Team Heretics, this map choice in Manhattan is very much looking locked down, martial law style by Heretics.
Yeah, Shiki just not able to find the soul opportunities with the Captain America, so that they get just compressed into having to take these ult fights where Heretics have so many resources to be able to start off the fight, force Shiki to respond with defensives, and then punish someone who's slightly out of the range of the reach of them. And it's just allowing Heretics to pull ahead player advantage-wise.
I think it is just where Team Heretics force these fights to be taken. I think that's something that they've always been good at, no matter whether it's Berber, Patapim, Citadel, or Heretics. These guys are very good at, like, we know that there's certain places in scrims, like, we're going to practice engagements here. This is where we want to be taking a key fight. The ambulance by, like, Midtown, for example.
Oh,
Heretics are like,
brutal.
we want to be there for everywhere. And yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah, Ryan, Heretics are like, okay, we completed the map. We had pick potential on our attack. Now, if you complete the map, we force it in OT because it's now time for the stall strategies.
And
This is so costly in terms of time bank. This is also so smart, reading Shiki's reluctance to play the Gambit. Even when they had the Loki up, Lindstrom so many times was actually copying Calf with the Rocket Cosmic Yarn Amplifier for like second BRB, and to force Heretics to have to break the amp before they could try to go after one of Shiki's actual players.
Yeah.
Which means that Leolaz lacks the pick potential when Galactic Legend is paired with that Gambit Royal Flush, right? Heretics will be able to withstand it off of things like Soul Bond or Regeneration Domain alone.
And that was the biggest stuff for me, is seeing Lelis not having any final hits, so it all concludes that way. And you sort of mentioned it about like the Loki being able to take things from the other side. It would always have to be Ken pushing the limits of what Loki's could do, certainly in EMEA. Now he's back in full force. This stall is going to be pretty damning for Shikigami that have to try to replicate a full map finish. And I think that's the first time that we've seen Manhattan finished in EMEA. One of the few times that we've seen it finished globally as well, because it's a pretty pesky, certainly second point of the map that you have to try to get through. But right now, it's almost a podcast, Moxie, because it's both teams sort of trading out some of the damage, trading out to build up these ultimates, and the Magneto was pretty much left up on the high ground, not even being looked at on the side of Heretics.
Cross Mountain just can't find positions on backline too because of Tanuki's consistent strain shield blocking his path. Beetle's warding off one of the side lanes so that Shiki can't pinch and get past the Vanguards to go put pressure onto Heretics, so that when the fight moves to the point itself, you've got poke damage from the Atom, you've got all of the staying resources off of Loki Regeneration Domain. First blood falls to Shiki's way, and it's 2 picks back-to-back. CRB already being poke damage, though, does convert into Cosmic Yarn Amplifier build-up, but Alex just allows Heretics safety inside Invisible Boundary, and we go right back into limbo.
Oh, Enzo might have got more back for that regeneration domain. Mwah, perfect from Ken. Place to keep that Enzo alive because not much was going to keep him going when that focus started to turn onto him. Kaya now with a side of seduction, see if he can get out of position, and he does get Tanuki, just hovering to the low ground. Aya Bagamoto in hand, so that would have been costly, but the Counter Revival is going to be copied, meaning that the Strange is going to be back in no time. Naga 90% means that it could be back-to-back potentially if Heretics are under more stress, which they are. They need to try to find exactly where this Adam Warlock is going to be. They see him. It just feels like from Frost Mountain's perspective, there's very little that you can do about it. You're not even going to force out the ultimate because Meteor M and Aya Bagamoto is going to combine. The stuns connect onto multiple, but the Meteor M doesn't quite find the hits. Ruby Raid, see if it get anything. It clears up some of the lamps at the very least. And our ultimate charge, you're very cautious of what's about to follow. The more sustained for Heretics, as it seems that the one last thing that they want to use is that Counter Revival. Freedom Charge is going to come out first. Galactic Legend waiting. It seems that this is going to be the chance to try to use it, but you know that if those eliminations come in, wait, the pick goes on to Naga, so Life Cocoon's going to be forced out. Isidore needs to close this down as much as possible. It's not going to stop the ultimate. Naga finds that space to bring back 3 players, but at least some progression at least started for Shikigami. Alex now has an invisible boundary if this wants to keep going, as Kath brings in a second Yan amplifier in the middle of this fight. It's just on and on and on for Team Heretics, but they have to give up some space. They're running out of some sustain here, and the pick still actually coming in for Shikigami showed that that attrition is needed. It's still available, but it seems that Heretics stalling out for a bit more time. That was the name of the game. Time. They bought so much of it, and even if Shikigami get moving, that's 3 minutes lost.
Yeah, that's so much time lost. Shiki at least do hold Snowball within this next fight, right? Kaya with Psionic Seduction can push the team forward, but Ken will have the Loki ult to be able to match. And I mean, Alex swaps on to the Gambit as well. Portal fight from Heretics, they've got the Loki copy. They can just go fast. Alex actually swaps to the CD, so you have Eternal Bond to totally take away the space from Shiki, have the CC immunity, which means that Kaya cannot contest this with the Psionic Seduction. Heretics totally taking Shikigami's momentum and setting up for the pick onto the Emma. And Kaya does not get brought back by BRV. He was about to, but someone just broke it before he could.
Oh dear, and it was a really good Terra Kip that came in from Ken. Really waiting until the last minute to use that Eternal Bond. Freedom Charge. It's used way off of the point. It's stalled out. It's trying to sort of push back some of these other players, but this is just an absolute mess. Heretics are still on point.
Tanuki on the Strange is still on objective. Shiki can use ults, can push Heretics as players. They're not getting objective movement, which means that if they get to second, Ryan, it's likely an overtime.
It's picks at the very least come in, but more time is being bought. Heretics know, this is why so many teams start on the attack, right? They know where exactly they need to be playing, what style, and this is where Heretics' sort of perfect scenario comes into play. You finished the map, and you just need to stall out at some point. Doesn't matter when, just force as many fights as possible. Frost Mountain try to see if he can line up the Ruby Rage, but this is a bit of a quiet moment in what has been a chaotic Manhattan.
Shiki have to win these fights back-to-back and fast to make up for the time that they've lost. They've got a good stock of ults to be able to do so, but yet again, they've lost the early use of BRB as Isidore pays, sacrifices his own life laid down to keep Heretics away, and that objective moving forward. Lindstrom, Legolas, and Kaya all investing their ults all at the same time, trying to find these eliminations, but Heretics simply evade them. They lose the Luna, but they still have the Star-Lord and the Freedom Charge, which means that Galactic Legend invades into the spaces that Shiki tried to take cover from, and Heretics just wipe Shiki's presence off the face of the map. And now, 1 minute left, you don't have any ults to force your way through.
Silence. I mean, even Galacta is getting a bit stressed from the sounds of it, of just like, Shikigami, come on, you need to bring it through. We need to see this full best of 5 potentially, and this was your map choice at the end of the day. But you're trying to go in, it's a one-sided Gambit, but that is just off of Shikigami's own volition. And it's the first to go down again. Beer back means that he's going to be brought into the fray, but he's taken straight out yet again, which means it's just even more stall. This is a little bit scattered from Shikigami. A portal might be required. They should have it in hand, but they also have players just skirting around the objective itself. You got the scans coming through as well, so this is great information for Heretics to try to play this objective, knowing exactly what these ultimates are going to be facing and going through. Freedom Charge is the closest for a C door, and Naga's not letting him through these doors to actually touch onto the pop. It's out from Shikigami. It's going to be flipped, but the fact that you lose both Lindstrom and Frost Mountain means that you're losing some key parts to turn this fight around. It's looking like Heretics are going to be taking Manhattan and putting themselves one map away from continuing on in this losers bracket, but Shikigami trying to fight on. The portal is from Frost Mountain, and the fact that Isido was taken down so quickly, even with the Freedom Charge, means there's no chance of a touch. Even in unison, you've got players from Heretics drinking at the same time straight after that. Shows how connected this team is.
Oh, Shiki punished for not going for stall strategies on their defense. The Heretics showing why that triple strat is so formidable on first point. It forces just like that really uncomfortable overtime situation where you're being stuck, you're being peppered by poke, you have to go into one-sided gambit ult, your vanguards can't chase the strategists or the duelists off of those held angles because they have to throw their bodies onto the objective to keep the map in play. If Shiki remain in this tournament, we will have to see. It's map point for Heretics. We'll be back after this break.
To paraphrase from Spider-Man Homecoming, no one can win every battle, but no one should fall without a struggle. And Shikigami, they have been struggling. They are making Heretics work for it, but that doesn't mean we're not still leaning in the favor of Heretics, because they are just looking stronger, Moxie.
Yeah, I mean, this is match point for Heretics. Like, at this point from Shiki, I want to see something different from them. Instead of trying to go for, like, the triple strategists, where they didn't really even play it all that much on Manhattan and were punished for not starting it on first. Like, even if it's first save Wolverine so you can play fastball, even if you go for, like, only banning strategists from Heretics so that they can't lean triple strat lines, yes, maybe something more meta gets through, but if Heretics are accustomed to only having triple strat open, maybe they're not as practiced as some of the rest of the compositions, and you can start exposing some weaknesses, because it's now or out of the tournament. That is, like, Shiki's life is on the line here. If they continue doing what they have in the past, I fear Heretics will just outlast them with the triple strategist stall yet again.
Speaking of someone who has been outlasting and also has not been showing a weakness in that last map, Ryan, the MVP is Enzo, and for good reason.
It's just the amount of times that he's able to force fights into positions that Shikigami do not want. And seeing as you quoted Spider-Man Homecoming, I want to quote Spider-Man 2 for Shikigami.
Ooh.
My back! My back! Because, like, it's almost like they have been thrown off the top of the roofs of Manhattan down onto the ground, because it's just like they're running out of, like, options, it feels like. And in maps like this, that was the choice of Shikigami, it hasn't quite worked. And I think it's also Shikigami trying to go for, like, sort of like honorable drafts as well. I want to see them. They were one game away from elimination. We'll see them in stage 2, but I want to see them, like, go Hail Mary with some of these strategies, right? Like, go for some audacious things. You're playing it too safe, I think, certainly with that first part of the draft.
Yeah.
Now is the chance to do some weird stuff.
I mean, you're not even playing the Gambit match a whole lot of the time. So, like, Gambit save does not mean a lot for Shiki here, outside of just forcing Heretics to burn slots on banning out the Rogue out of necessity, I think is what you're, like, looking for.
Yeah.
But if at least you save the Wolverine, then maybe you force Heretics into having to ban, like, well, probably not the Hulk, but something like the Cyclops as well. So I think we're all in agreement that no matter which map that we go to, and of course it will be Central Park because that is just like Shikigami's home base, we want to see something different from this team, and that might come on this map because this is the map where they were known for playing Human Torch.
This is where they've played Torch, this is where they've played Mantis Ultron, this is where they've even played Wolverine, which is something Foxy has been encouraging. It is time for Shikigami to show us what they've got, or it's time for them to go home for this stage. I'll end it with one last quote before I throw it to the casters from Aurora Monroe. You counter despair with hope. You strive forever to be the best you are capable to be. Therein lies victory. Shikigami, show us the best you can be, or Heretics will be moving on to the next round.
That's not a wolf save.
Come on, Shikigami, you had one job. I guess the one thing about this map that does work in Shikigami's favor, they've played Team Heretics twice and not only beat them twice, but they full held them twice. They are attacking first, so it's more of a case of just trying to get something onto the board, but with the stall out hijinks that Heretics has been able to do, this is, you have to make a difference here. You can't be doing the same thing against Heretics. You just played it too safe. I'm like, please, Shikigami, show me some zany stuff.
Yeah, it is somewhat the definition of insanity. Like, doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. There's still opportunity for Shiki here to target something from Heretics, but Mantis being the only strategist, Heretics will have full stall available with, like, low-key strategies because Daredevil continues to be the ban that Shiki default to, not allowing that one-sided information. But this time they actually save the Daredevil themselves, so they have dive potential when paired with things like that Venom, as ooh, Heretics Take away the one identity that Shikigami had on this map. There goes Human Torch. That's the first Human Torch ban. That is somewhat aura, I will say, on the side of Shikigami, especially since Star-Lord is still available for Heretics to be able to counter into it. But just removing any chances of something zany, something funny from Shikigami's end, and safeguarding Heretics from being able to play that triple strategist stall-out composition.
Means that Heretics on their defense. We see much penny from them. I don't think we've seen any penny from them.
Really, no.
Well, at least there's a difference, and I'm never going to say like a one-sided Daredevil is a bad thing to be having for Shikigami, especially on the other side you get a one-sided torch and immediately there's a pause. I see I was like head on hands immediately. That's the most like strongest reaction I've seen to a pause ever. But it might have like stalled out some stuff, and you know, hopefully we get to see the play cams. So any strategies or compositions?
You just want to see the Heretics board.
Yeah. You just leave it alone. Let these guys like take a moment. And Frost Mountain, he's been
Pep
like a player to
talk.
watch certainly for this. Yeah, I mean a pep talk, but he's also given a lot of information in interviews as well. That's probably been the highlight. It's like, hey, how you doing, Frost Mountain? It's like, I'm good. We've just lost 5 times on this map. It's like, why would you ever say that? Why would you ever tell us this information? But we're back into the game.
Oh, here it is. The Star-Lord and the Ultron from Heretics. Not Loki Adam, but still triple strat stall shenanigans and an attempt at building up Rage of Ultron as the first ult, as they've called Shiki's bluff. Both teams saved Gambit, but Heretics have been the one leaning it. They know, even with the Gambit in play, Shiki likely not fielding towards it, so there is no reason to match Gambit for Gambit. And you don't have to run the risk of having your Ultron fade out to a Galactic Legend buffed up by the Raging Royal Flush. As Shiki, we have to see, they saved the Daredevil over the Wolverine. How strong can Frost Mountain pull a performance off to allow Shiki the chance of staying in the series?
Well, Frost Mountain has successfully rage baited Team Heretics a number of times across the 2026 season. Now would be a nice time in order to do it, as you have got that triple strategist White Fox Luna combination. And the Gambit's still protected, and the Gambit's still not in use for Shikigami. At this point, it feels like a little bit of a loss, but I'm just going to trust the process because Shikigami managed to make the series go the distance multiple times, even against the likes of Team Heretics, burning them down as much as they possibly can. It's Isido that actually gets his first pick onto the backline. In fact, it's strung along, so Heretics losing out all 3 strategists at once means that a portal play needs to come in from Alex switching over towards the Strange, and everybody is dropping one at a time. 2/3 is already made. Maybe Heretics just give up this point and go for the portal play straight afterwards. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Blistering start from Shiki.
Yeah, great dive. Honestly, Kaya starts it all off too with a brilliant carbon crush, finding the connection onto Star-Lord of all heroes. Insane stuff, not the connection we usually see. And so many of Heretics players like have to deal with the Cap and the Daredevil that it just frees Leolaz up to do what he wants uncontested in poke. As Frost Mountain and Isidore just teaming up, not allowing Beetle through to be able to ghost or like the objective for Heretics to buy some of this time back, as they are on the back foot, both in terms of ult charge, but also space that they control currently. The Cap is being totally chased away.
Frost Mountain, the mechanics of his aim is good enough to take the fight, but he's also running his mouth a lot, trying to call exactly where these fights are happening and see if he can coordinate the dive. But Isidore, in that moment, actually gets taken out, and this focus going on to the Captain America Beetle. He is just indestructible. Like, first Avenger might be the last Avenger. Everybody else is going to be taken out in due time. But the Galactic Legend has one target in mind. It manages to get Leolus before the Psionic Seduction is able to take him out. And Leolus, in the process, is going to be free right back into the fray again for Shikigami. Frost Mountain going in for the sort of final blood, going in for the elimination, gets frozen out for his troubles, but he's going to be right back into the fight as soon as he possibly can, forcing 3 ultimates from Heretics all at the same time.
Yeah, Ultron and Kumeho unleashed, which means that Shiki free Daredevil ult to force Alex's fate of both worlds. Shiki, though, losing players, the damage amp allows Heretics to close out the fight, and now take the stall opportunities handed to them. Frost Mountain, though, still actually up. You just see his silhouette there on the left side, having that high ground position and reading out where Heretics' players will be, crucially where Beetle is, so that if Heretics gain a little bit too confident towards Shiki's side and tax their approach on walk up from stall, Kaya will be able to just go diamond form and grab someone out early.
Beetle has the drone and the snowflake on him. That is a juiced up insect if I've ever seen one, and the freedom charge is going to make that sustain even more ridiculous. Ruby Rage is going to be hit. It barely even sort of hits the heels of Tanuki. Doesn't do enough damage to scare him at all. But CD, if you can look onto the backline, as the Seedor's taking a bit more of the damage. The fight in the leap in the air. Layla's trying to take out Tanuki. It almost goes down low, almost goes down 6 feet underground if it's not going that well for Layla's. Naga's taking a good chunk of damage as the Emmas are trying to charge off of each other to build up this left click, and it might be enough to get the elimination, certainly off the back of the crystal, but it's managed to be disengaged in time and overextend perhaps as Kaya wants to go in off of the back of this Yarn amplifier, but he's going to be back, and Laylas is going to find plenty of space as Team Heretics are going to have to give this up. Those 3 ultimates that we used in tandem for the strategist means that there's very little to try to survive off of the back of this on Team Heretics, so they have to use the terrain.
Yeah, but Beetle finally able to get where he wanted onto that objective to stall it. Position forced out, but then traded for another player from Heretics. I think that was Ken before he TP'd back to his cap. So Heretics still fight in them. Not in time to be able to stall for Enzo's portal, though. And we start to see the value of Frost Mountain's Daredevil. Not in terms of just getting dive onto Heretics' backline, but having the information to read out where Beetle is and prevent Heretics from stalling and compressing the amount of fights that Shikigami have available to keep that objective moving. Speaking about still moving, they do have the snowball potential. Freedom charge from Eastador, but slowed somewhat down by a very early pick onto Leolaz, as Kaya actually sees the Venom swap from Enzo and swaps to the Angela to be able to counter Spear and potentially get the environmental drop-off when we head to the fights on Staircase.
And Shikigami have gone a lot more full force forward with the Luna White Fox away from the rockets. That be right back that has been able to keep sort of the fight safe for them. Oh, the leap in is a bit of a scary one. Naga goes down low, but he's able to actually try to survive that, though. It forces out the freedom charge for a Seedor that now want to try to give chase as much as they possibly can. Payload moving at full speed near enough for the Ruby Rage. Is going to connect onto multiple forces out the fate of both worlds. Just 50% short of having the Royal Flush to allow some more sustain. Feast of the Abyss is actually going to get free. Enzo, just with things looking like Shikigami want to sort of really put their boot onto the necks of Heretics, Enzo turns it around onto them.
That was all cancelled, by the way, on Ruby Rage, but Enzo brings it back to bear with Feast of the Abyss empowered by Fate of both worlds. Cheeky just full regroup. Eastor throwing himself off of the map to get the regroup faster without being stalled out as we get that replay. Watch for the Feast of the Abyss, perfectly timed to change to the damage boost to still have the heal potential so that Heretics don't lose players, and Shiki aren't able to push this defense all the way back. Galactic Legend looking to catch them. Gambit all invested. First, Tanuki going deep, hitting that backline, but Kaya actually collapses Ken off the map, and Galactic Legend come through now with Beetle trying to sustain the team through with Freedom Charge on the point.
Oh, we're just flying around in this like a couple of drones checking out the new scenery. Mise-en-scène of Dracula's castle, allowing for some weird aerial battles as it seems to be nobody's touching the floor. Right now, Shikigami stalled out a little bit. 90 seconds or less just left on the objective, and they've lost out on Layla, switching over towards the Starlord to try to go in for these aerial battles. Kaya also on the Angela has found some really good moments to actually impress, but it's all Heretics right now. Everybody's sent back to spawn, and the distance so closed up that even if there was less time, you might go for a portal, but Heretics would certainly not allow that. They're actually going to give up some space to try to set up, but those support ultimates to work with.
I mean, the Daredevil just loses a lot of value here, right? Because Heretics, they're all playing stacked on main. So you've got the information exactly where they're coming from. You get to see it in front of your face off of scouting alone. And it takes time to be able to pressure them out. You're relying on Heretics just gaining too much confidence and trying to press too deep, but they have a lot of discipline. As we've got Eastor trying to invade into that backline, turn the attention so that Kaya comes out with that Heaven's Retribution, but it's purified by Ken on the Gambit. There's no one-shot follow-up from Shiki. Nothing alongside the Angela ult, so it burns out. And now you're relying in just having the ults to stabilize for the OT push. Isidore with the Freedom Charge, but Alex has that damage potential with the Fate of both worlds for Heretics to stand up to the cap and still set up Enzo's ult.
Me and Galactic Legend all used together. Feast of the Abyss found so much. Didn't find the eliminations, but it found a lot of overhealth, which has just been dwindled away until the resilience comes in. Enzo manages to survive with 3k damage thrown straight at him and able to keep sustaining it out. Waiting a moment, trying to get a respite, but Beetle is not provided that same level of space. In fact, the oxygen is cut from his lungs as Shikigami find an opening pick. The Royal Flush, however, for Ken is allowed that forward movement to come in, and Enzo, the captain himself, leading the charge to find these picks, and he's pulled the fight away from the objective itself. It's split from Shikigami. Lindstrom finds that elimination, but he has to group up and corral the rest of the troops that are moving this squirrel forward. Galactic Legend now from Tanuki gets stunned out in the end. Great play from Shikigami to allow that champ to find its full connection from Kath, as Shikigami have switched away from the combination with Luna to go for that gambit. Portal allows more people from Shikigami to try to push on, but Freedom Charge allows Team Heretics to try to fight them at face level. Get the bodies on the point, force them back as that overtime wick is starting to dwindle, but also it's getting very close to finishing out on third. Let the Devil out in the perfect position for Daredevil. Matt Murdock himself is right where he wants to be, and Shikigami find themselves at the throne of Dracula and at point 3.
What a spectral surge from Kath. Like, Shiki perfectly stopped Galactic Legend twice. The first with actual elimination onto Tanuki off of so many players, just looking at the Star-Lord, most of it being Kaya, body blocking heals, setting up damage, keeping directly on top of that Star-Lord's position so that, yes, Heretics get Gambit ult, but they don't have Galactic Legend to full board clear. And then Shiki gain ground. They build ults of their own. They get Portal through. Tanuki's just waiting for those strategist ults to be done to come out with that Galactic Legend at the end when Shiki have no room to be able to disengage it. And Kath just totally shuts it down with such a perfect spectral surge to keep Shiki's hopes alive in this tournament. If this series continues, she has to get MVP.
Yeah, I mean, if it goes to a win for Shikigami to bring us to map 5, you'd have to say so. And it's also, like, not really much of a comfort character. She's been on Rocket mostly, then Invis, and then White Fox. And team is just better suited towards her. Like Shikigami, even in this 2-2-2 where teams would be a little bit more against running the Luna White Fox as your only strategists, Shikigami do try and manage to make it work. Having the Captain America certainly helps in those cases too. But Heretics now on the attack, running 2-2-2 themselves with the Iron Amplifier and the Royal Flush to provide a bit of a go time for Heretics on these attacking rounds, but they have been full health here twice. They need to find the opening.
I mean, Frost Mountain on the Daredevil too will be gaining a lot of information about where Heretics are trying to set up. So Kaya can be in 1,000 places at once. He will have 1,000 duties to try to keep on top of spearing out the Venom, making sure that the dive can't be found into Shikigami's back line, allowing Lindstrom and Kath to be able to build up their ultimates and trying to hold off Heretics' push, as they can play for poke or they can play for Gambit ult, forcing Shikigami back.
Alex is under a little bit more of a threat, but it's not going to matter too much. He can take all of that attention if it provides Tanuki the space to be able to get to in quick succession. The rest of Shikigami just bouncing around the point. Honestly, it's like just pigeons in a park trying to just scamper around to get any morsels that they can. Portal is in time and early from Leolis to try to go in and stall this out, but 2/3 have managed to be captured. It's going to be the Strange only to touch the point first, and a leap in to try to immediately go into the back line on the side of the Daredevil, but Frost Mountain has provided no respect. He's provided no space. He is sent back to spawn again, which that focus and that pull away, Frost Mountain is being used as bait, and it's allowed everybody else from Shikigami to regroup.
Yeah, Leolas holds shield on point. Shiki strategists. Oh, Kaya makes the sacrificial play of taking Enzo off the map. Was a little bit too low, though. Ken with Cosmic Yawn Amplifier, so Heretics still in this fight, and Shiki might have been able to stabilize behind point, but not on it, Ryan, which means that Heretics pick up the point and head into second. Valiant effort from Shiki, like understanding the Daredevil had to step up to the plate, draw Heretics' attention, allow Lindstrom and Kath to be able to stabilize the team on point, potentially make a play for Fate of Both Worlds to push the team back in. but without anyone touching, it all falls away. And that was a very fast push from Heretics.
I'm looking at the ultimates for Heretics, and I was going to say, like, how on earth does Shikigami win that fight? Getting the pick onto Enzo at least is a good start. Galactic Legend Royal Flush. You have a Fate of Both Worlds, a Kamiho to deal with it. That's about it. If Kai can close that distance as Angela, maybe, just maybe, even if you get a pick, it's a Bira back just right around this corner. Heaven's Retribution has pulled people in. Great play from Kaya, actually. The Bira back, I think, is broken, so, like, Team Heretics forced to reset. It felt that there was a chance to spring that back and further for Team Heretics, but Shikigami finds something from nothing.
Yeah, no Star-Lord. Pick onto Tanuki, so Alex holds the Gambit ult. Still, Kaya just patrolling, trying to put the pressure onto the Gambit, stop the ult from coming through with the Assassin Spear, but Tanuki does gain access to it, I believe. Was not a 50% ult cancel. Still, Shiki investing Fate of Both Worlds, Tanuki holding the Star-Lord ult, forcing Kaf to have to hold Kumeho to be able to respond to it.
We saw some magic of Angela in the Americas yesterday for 100 Thieves. Didn't quite work out in their favor, but there's not really too much of a security net for Shikigami if Kai is able to sort of turn things around. Isidore finds a pick up to Beetle, but Riorback means that it's going to be that cap versus cap fight that we saw in endgame, I guess, to an extent. Heretics now finding some space and an opening, and Naga's in that perfect position to make this Ruby Rage absolutely work. Shikigami are going to be a little bit more scared, not even close to having a strategist ultimate, as they have to use both of them up together. Freedom Charge has to be the thing that actually sustains and pushes this fight back. They could see that Team Heretics were trying to line things up as much as they possibly could, seeing what variations that they had, and Team Heretics are just waiting to pull the pistol.
Yeah, here comes Galactic Legend. So Frost Mountain hits first with the Let the Devil Out. So Cyclops ult denied, Tanuki taken down. Heretics push back to spawn, but they still have the winning combo for this next fight. Shiki not out of the woods just yet. Cosmic Yarn Amplify, Galactic Legend. No way of Shiki to be able to defend against it outside of just taking the Star-Lord down early.
The focus there, Frost Mountain is going to be the main sort of point of target for Heretics, so there's maybe a chance with that advantage, at least with the players. Kai needs to be careful he doesn't go down. In fact, he hits Naga for his troubles and is able to escape whilst Enzo tries to set up in position. Some of these fights, you just don't really see these engagements happening on these various points in Central Park because it's a bit more messy, but the Yarn Amplifier Galactic Legend combination does exactly what it needs to. The problem, however, Moxie, is it took a good while to actually get things lined up and going. And Shikigami have built up a good portion of their own ultimates to try to sustain things further.
They have not built up defensive ults to guard against Alex's Raging Royal Flush, which is why Heretics are going now. Like, they took advantage of how split Shiki's players were. They decimated the backline, so there was no healing opportunity, no battery to be able to build up the Luna ult to face up against Alex's Raging Royal Flush. And it's down to Leolas to just find these eliminations off of dry Galactic Legend alone. Heretics, that was that Gambit ult fight. That was meant to be the fight that saw Shikigami off of the point to let them cap it. And Leolas pulls out the heroics and keeps Shiki in play.
I mean, Alex used the Royal Flush as Ken went down on the rocket. Obviously, Riverback's not going to bring him in. Frost Mountain finds the pick at the perfect time, and Ken has actually switched over to the White Fox.
I mean, you have to have the charm to be able to deal with this Daredevil cap and Venom divers. Shiki will be relentless in taxing you with dive approaches to burn you out of time, burn you out of ultimates. Already you've lost your backline though, and this suddenly is looking holdable for Shikigami. Yes, Lindstrom had to use Fate of Both Worlds, but you've bought enough time for Eastor to hit Freedom Charge to have Beetle's match, and Heretics already threw out the cards, that Trump winning card of the Raging Royal Flush that they will not have back in time for OT play.
30 seconds left for Heretics to get to the second checkpoint and then hit the final point of this map. Otherwise, it's going the distance like it tends to with these two players. Kaya has found himself two, though. The two strategists going down, and Naga moving over towards the Ultron is the third and final one. This doesn't even look doable for Team Heretics. The portal is not certainly going to be in a good spot with how much of a spawn hold this is. So Heretics have to try to leap in. It's going to be Enzo first trying to touch, but he has to go for the gauntlet of multiple players. as he's managed to sustain a little bit more with the resilience, but that's all he can realistically manage as Leyless has one target on his mind, using him to get 2/3 of the way towards the Galactic Legend, and the Freedom Charge going to be traded out on both sides to allow this to sustain a bit more. Leyless doesn't even need his ultimate as Galactic Legend from Tanuki is going to hope to find something, but he also needs to find a touch on the point. Beatles is at least going to be able to help him as he's found that pick over onto Leyless, but it's done and dusted. Shikigami yet again against Heretics bring us to map 5.
We go the distance. Shikigami bouncing back. Instrumental save on Daredevil to totally shut down the stall from Beetle on the Captain America. Some insane charms from Cap to be able to find early eliminations on Enzo so that the OT just does not allow the fight to settle long enough for that Gambit and Starlord ults to come through and bail Heretics out. We'll have to see who continues in this tournament. It goes down to the absolute wire. We'll be back with map 5 after this break.
What a series this is turning out to be so far. We have a 2-2. Heretics, for the second time in 2 days, find themselves stuck in a match 5 scenario. But at least they don't have to do it on Midtown again. That's already been dealt with. And Shikigami are out of Dracula maps. So can they close this out? Because right now, they have shown that once again, Central Park really is a comfortable home for them, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like going through all of the New York maps, so it's taken a bit of a beating. We have to go somewhere else in the end. But like Shikigami just showing that they have like the advantages in the right places. They know how to sort of play these maps, the win conditions, and despite this being a long drawn-out series, especially with the amount of sustained compositions, Shikigami are still showing clutch and key moments on mostly like the strategists, I think, with how they played.
Yeah. And to go and emphasize that, let's talk about our MVP here, Moxie. Cap put on a clinic on White Fox.
I mean, the charms, like the ult cancels. So many instrumental ult cancels from Caf to make sure that it's like dive, denied, Cap stall, Venom stall, denied, Star-Lord ult, denied. I was so close to saying like Frost Mountain should take it because like obviously when we saw the player cams, you see how involved Daredevil players have to be. Like you have to be so much more vocal, and that's not something that a lot of duelist players typically are. Most duelist players, like when you're coaching players or you're forming teams and you're trying to work out like who shot calls, who ult tracks, who IGLs, duelist players usually put their hands up and say, hey, I don't want to be vocal. I don't want to have to focus on communicating. I want to focus on winning my duels and being better than the other team's duelists. But when you're playing Daredevil, because of that passive, which is the most broken thing about this hero's kit, the communication, the coordination, the information that you have to convey that to your team. You have to constantly be saying, okay, so-and-so is set up here, let's look for a hit onto them here with this, and then get ready to go and still be able to win your duels. It's so much multitasking, and it's a huge reason why Shikigami were able to get the drop on Beetle a whole bunch of times. Like, we saw how hard he was to lock down on some of the maps before, but when you look at the amount of casualties that he took on Central Park alone, you can really see that Shikigami just dialed in to taking the Cap out.
This series is Sorry, after you, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, like, the more that I'm thinking about it, the more it's like, okay, if I'm Heretics, the issue is that like the Daredevil being one-sided because you're banning out Wolverine third. Knowing that this team hasn't really been playing Gambit, I think drop the Rogue ban. Because it's like, then it's going to force the Gambit. It's going to be away from this like Luna White Fox combination. And then you are able to, instead of banning out the Rogue, you can ban out the Wolverine and Daredevil second and third. Because it's like getting that. I also think the one-sided torch just really didn't do too much for Heretics. I think that was a little bit of just trauma creeping in. But I do think that there's an element there of like Heretics. You know that this team is getting Gambit and not really playing it. So you could take out some of the other bans that you have around the Gambit to either force them onto it or go somewhere else. This is also not a surprise. Yggdrasil is like the most picked map for Heretics. We love to see this team go the distance on this map too.
It's a map that we see rarely in total, but like you mentioned, Heretics do like to bring it up. This series is starting to feel like a lower bracket semi-final to decide our third LAN team, but there's still another lower bracket game who will be playing against the winner of this series coming up after this series. So I'm just going to let us get in to the final map between Heretics and Shikigami. Winner moves on to that lower bracket semi-final. Loser, their journey ends here. I leave you. We've got Moxie and Ryan Central.
Be a big shock if Shikigami can actually eliminate one of the few teams that has been at every international event, or at least the core of it. But Moxie, like, am I just talking like smack? Like, I feel like for both these teams that played such a neutral first part of the draft, what's costing Shikigami?
Risk.
Now it could be Heretics.
It's a risk. I think there's a safer option. Instead of saving the Cap, you save the Daredevil so that you have the match. I feel like the instant response would be banning the Captain America and them having it one-sided, but as we've seen, like, having that Daredevil does make it much easier to be able to contain the Captain America. He says that he can do it all day. There's the clap. But as we see, when Daredevil has the information to keep track of his every move, it becomes a lot harder to successfully hit the back line unexpectedly ahead of the rest of your team and create that disruption for your front line to take advantage of, or just to stall out the objective itself, so that you're buying more time, more opportunity to have those fights. As, yeah, Heretics, this is a really rough position for them to be in. Like, they went from the prospect of qualifying straight up into the mid-season. Off of the upper bracket, they were so close to beating Virtus Pro. It went down to the wire. It went down to, as you said, Phi being on 30 health. So to find themselves in this position now is very scary, as opposed to Shikigami, who are looking to finally be able to attend one of our live events, as they were denied the opportunity when they were the Cooking with Kaya core. And there it is.
Ooh.
We were waiting for it. That's the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of the ban draft. Heretics, do you ban the Hulk?
It's there where you sort of like feels here, like, do you even ban the Gambit? Because you've sort of seen that like Shikigami are not really that prioritized towards it. You have to get the Cyclops out first. That's the main thing, is that, like, how it feels so far. So Mantis, it's like not the Rogue ban yet. You've gone for the Cyclops, and you're right. This is sort of maybe opened up things entirely. But Team Heretics are sort of used to this chaos being formed. It's just whether Line Pro has the read on this so far. One-sided Wolverine at least coming into the fray. The other duelists being aimed at from Heretics this time.
What's the save for Shiki here? Like, they could go for the Gambit save, which would then force Heretics to likely have to use the last ban slot on the Rogue. They'll go for the Rocket Raccoon, actually. So you have BRB uptime, you have Cosmic Yarn Amplifier, you have Rocket Packs for your Wolverine as well. Heretics, they have one last ban. Do they take out one half of the fastball? The issue is, I fear, if you go for banning out the Hulk, you still get fastball with the Thing. They'll take out the Gambit instead, which I think addresses a lot of the issues that you could have had, right? Shikigami getting Loki Gambit, getting Star-Lord, as well as they go for the save on the Invisible Woman. Remembering Shikigami's turn yesterday versus Strays, when they started really dialing into the strengths of fastball, they targeted out the Invisible Woman, removing the issue of force physics to be able to counter-pull Frost Mountain's grab protections. As what will be the ban? Captain America. Yeah. If that hadn't been a Sue save, she's for sure visible in that ban. Shikigami now, because they're going to have the Wolverine for Frost Mountain as opposed to the Daredevil, don't want to have to deal with too many players having to work out where Beetle will be trekking through from and just nip it in the bud.
When it comes to characters across like stage 1 playoffs, one-sided Wolverine's win rate is pretty darn high, I would have to say. And the likes of like getting a Gambit, however, that seems to be the main difference maker. Shikigami, not sort of forced into the sort of playstyle that Heretics might be looking for, just like building around these ultimates to try to go in for these moments. But it is the fact of like Wolverine having a 60% win rate when he is one-sided. Gambit, however, we see it a little bit less often. It's pretty much neck and neck. 23 wins, 22 losses. So
yeah,
it hasn't been a difference maker.
Shiki, I don't think we'll be starting with fastball. That will be something that they use to try to break through on their attack very quickly, just hurtling the Wolverine in to break the problem area of that first corner where the defense can just suffocate you out of angles and keep you at arm's length with the sheer amount of poke pressure. But Heretics, they were able to secure the Infinity Stones of the Gambit composition, not the Rogue, not the Mag, but the Star-Lord and the Rocket to accompany it. So Shiki will have to deal with the Gambit ults as they come. As starting off on this defense, Frost Mountain on that Daredevil, reading where Beetle will hit from, keeping the dive contained.
All right, final map here, as it's not even a qualification game for mid-season finals yet. The winner would have to play that later. Loser going home. We're going to be seeing him in stage 2. And this always goes the distance. Tanuki finds himself the first downed character, but a BRB back means that he's going to be straight back into this fray. Shikigami seeing if they can string a couple more eliminations on, but nobody from Heretics looking to go even low with this backline of the Gambit and Rocket.
Oh, what a freeze from Lindstrom. Instantly, though, we can see Issa or Kai are both falling low. Shiki having to turn, deal with the Venom, left the Vanguards vulnerable. Heretics, no eliminations for them, but they gain so much space.
So much ult charge too, and the rocket is going to get chased down by one of the few characters that is able to do it. Finds Cap though. No mirror back available to them. Even if it was available for the team, they can't use it, as you mentioned. But everybody else from Shikigami dropping one at a time. That just onslaught of damage that was concentrated into this hallway is going to provide very little. And one of the few chances that Team Heretics have had to play Daredevil himself for Tanuki, you can understand why. He was at the lead of it.
Yeah, Enzo is just being so brutal for Shikigami's front line to have to deal with. Yusto wants to be able to find that stall potential or hit onto Heretics' backline, but he's totally denied off of the EMEA. So Shiki actually moving away from the more vulnerable rocket onto Cap's White Fox. Lindstrom using that Luna ult very early. Tanuki caught in deep off of the Bionic Hook from Frost Mountain, but brought back by the BRB. That's one cooldown. Traded for a whole Luna ult, which means that they don't have the means of standing up, contesting the Cosmic Yawn Amplifier and breaking it. And Shiki have to instead give up space.
It's not looking good. Heretics having a lot of ultimates too. Some stall on the objective, but you don't want to be losing any more players. And with everybody trying to disengage, the Let the Devil Out is actually ended up with a little bit of a judo throw against Tanuki, but the sustain and the healing is there from his backline, and he finds himself 2 for his troubles. This is Shikigami looking a little bit dumbfounded in how to approach this, and Heretics making one of their most popular maps work very much in their favor.
Yeah, Heretics just continuing that aggression, throwing ults out at Shiki before they gain the resources to survive them. Cap's White Fox charge totally denied access to that Kumeho form, which you'll have to stand up to Galactic Legend, but that alone will not survive the Gambit ult. Kai using Sonar Seduction, getting the lock onto the Star-Lord so that you don't have the combination of the two, which Shiki would not be able to survive. Divide them to make it easier to live, but Leola's falls. It's traded at least. Shiki with the closer respawns, forcing Heretics to back all the way off of Frost Mountains, Let the Devil Out.
I mean, the Galactic Legend isn't going to get too much other than just provide a bit more of that peel, and it has provided a window for Shikigami to at least relax, other than for Frost Mountain, who thought that he was going to be safe there. Portal is actually going to be used very close on, which means that if this does actually go very quickly to that third and final checkpoint, it's not going to be available. But Shikigami now finally showing a little bit more promise on the offense, trying to reclaim some of the space that they've lost out on with the Kumeho, but it's just merely sidestepped from Heretics. They seem pretty uninterested in taking for this fight. Ken is going to go for the Yarn Amplifier, and Fate Buff World is going to be used in response, but Leolus is going to be eliminated just before that ultimate can come out and provide the sustain. Let the Devil Out also very much looming for Tanuki to see if he can actually find these openings, but it might not even be necessary when Naga and Enzo find these picks into the neutral. Shikigami again with this backline just not providing enough healing. They're losing out on space, and 4 minutes now for Heretics to finish out on Yggdrasil.
Yep, emergency button has been pressed on the side of Shiki's defense. Fastball has been called to the field as Lindstrom opts for the Loki. You know, like, Heretics will be starting off this fight fast. They have unmatched Gambit ult. You'll lose someone on the disengage likely, so Cap on the rocket with the BRB, the chance of bringing them back into the fight. Lindstrom giving the team regeneration domain, the opportunity to survive this early push from Heretics. There's the Gambit ult invested with the walk combined with Enzo's Sonic Seduction, but Shiki take advantage of the Loki cooldown, only lose Kai, who, as we said, will be brought back into the fold with the BRB, for Shiki to continue this fight 6v6.
Duelist ultimates in hand too, and no strategist ultimates to try to counter, hoping that Leolus might be able to find the picks into the air, but his space is completely closed down as he goes in for the Galactic Legend. Naga is just fencing right into the spawns of Shikigami. There's no room for them to breathe, no chance for them to even really get a touch in. Hulk Smash has to be used as well as a clone drop down from Lindstrom to try to close that distance, but now it's just a struggle to get people onto the point. Everybody from Shikigami has to come through that left entrance because the right one is shut down with the bouncer of Matt Murdoch. Beetle finds Leolus that's trying to stall out on this point. That positioning, that space that he wants to try to get that Apex Predator in hand, and in a clutch play, he has not been provided. Heretics are letting them have zero space, and Shikigami have been stripped from this progress onto the point. The stall one at a time. Isidore now trying to do it on the Hulk. Might have found a chance to sustain this, but you still have 2 minutes and 22 seconds in order to try to hold a visible boundary. Now trying to go for the copy for Lindstrom as he gets that Yan amplified to provide some more damage to fight this one out. But there's so little space left for Shikigami to hold on, but they manage to.
They hold. And now begins the torturous 2 minutes remaining as Beetle swaps to Cap, or Strange rather, and Heretics will just try and portal directly on top of Shiki with Enzo's ult, so that Shiki gain no opportunity to be able to react to this.
Force physics as well. If they wanted to jump on a person, pull them into a fight beside a seduction, it's going to come in. Frost Mountain is forced to use some of the bits of his kit to try to sustain that, but there's really no much option. You got the rocket that's throwing in a bit of healing, but that's been about it. Kaya is going to use the resilience and have the help of a lamp in order to try and fight this, and everybody else has actually got off the point to the point where the Heretics have actually flipped it back into their favor. Whilst this split has come in, Naga is taken to the sky to go in for the Galactic Legend and find the splits. He's not found the elimination, but he has knocked Bruce Banner down, and Tanuki has finished his dinner. Last Stand trying to pull people away to provide some space for Shikigami, but the eliminations are coming in thick and fast. Longer cooldowns coming in. Lindstrom has to run back on the Jeff to go for this Utopia backline to allow a stall, but it's not going to be enough. 1 minute and 2 seconds left on the clock for Heretics to finish up the map, and Shikigami have their work cut out for them on attack.
We know what faces them on the side swap as well. It's stall time.
Yippee!
For Heretics, it's stall time. That, or they could honestly just go for the 2-2-2 and take advantage of Rocket, Gambit, Starlord to be able to brute force these fights. You know that Shiki will be looking to employ that Wolverine with the fastball. Like, for me, it's not about how well Shiki could defend that map. It's about how strong their engagement, how strong their attack will be. As fastball is so very offensive. But Enzo has been so good at shutting down everything that Shiki have been trying to do. Having that Emma, having the Diamond Form, being able to totally avoid being grabbed out by the Wolverine.
30 seconds before you attack.
I don't know how well the fastball will be able to fare.
I'm nervous for Shikigami, but you never really know with these two teams.
I think Shikigami's nervous for Shikigami.
Yeah, I think Heretics is nervous just full round. They're very good at not showing it, but they sort of know that there's almost a focus. We've already heard that now they're doing a little bit of hate watching from the sounds of it, but Heretics are still the favorites in this one to sort of be not only the winner of this series, but also to be qualifying for mid-season finals. But there's a step
grab
beyond. The pull-in from Beetle, no chance. One player already down for Heretics.
Yeah, Kaya on the Groot as well, so even if Heretics were running the Invisible Woman, the moment that the grab from Frost Mountain is out, you just wall behind the Vanguard, no chance of healing. There you go, Kaya does it again. Line of sight totally denied. Alex Ken, no opportunity to heal the woeful Vanguard. And as I said, it's not about how strong Shiki's defense is, it's about how fast their offense is.
Toss me. He's trying to find another pick onto the Vanguard, but he's not quite connected. Slashing his way through, but it's more the creating of space. Heretics have multiple players actually very low. In fact, Naga was low for a good portion of time, and Leilis actually finds the killing blow. Portal has to be used in order to try to touch onto the point. Immediately, the Strange is pulled out into position, and there's no way, like, this line of sight has been consistently broken, and it's only one player that's actually going to go through the portal. It has to be a leap in from Beetle, and everybody else, like cockroaches, Heretics come out of multiple different orifices of Yggdrasil and actually find themselves able to contest and touch, but they're doing it right into Frost Mountain that might be able to put this map, this whole series, this whole game onto his back as Wolverine claws himself in a very fast first point take for Shikigami.
That was not a very pretty image that he provided, and that was about as ugly a hold from Heretics into the face of this fastball special from Frost Mountain. I think his feral lunges are at 100% connection rate, by the way. Make that potentially 105 as Beetle gets grabbed out. Has to just run back, tail between his legs to the rest of his team. There's no stall out. Shiki, if you recall, banned out the cap. So the more they occupy Heretics here on the front lines, the easier time that they have getting that cart closer to checkpoint.
Seeing if Frost Mountain can stand above everybody on this so far. The copy is coming for the Iron Amplifier to provide a little bit more damage and sustain on this engagement. Leyless has found himself a pick on Tanaga. Like, even though the focus is going to be on this Wolverine, I think Leyless is finding a lot of work. Kraken's impact is going to be used. Galactic Legend, he's very low, but he's managed to try and survive on 60 HP. Able to get the pick, Leyless. He's just not getting the sustainers, though. Healing that's coming towards him. And no surprise, Frost Mountain is just in the middle, in the distance, and Isidore and Kaya are making it so hard for Alex and Ken to find anything.
This wolf is just unleashed. Straight up. Frost Mountain is evolving as we watch. Fastball, yet again, looking for that opportune grab onto the Venom to deny the stall out. Heretics do have Sonic Seduction. Invisible Boundary first for the stall. No lost time from Frost Mountain to be able to push them out of it. So finally, Heretics will be able to slow Shiki's approach.
Beer back is going to bring back Kaya. Sends Kaya straight back into spawn. So breathing room for Heretics. And I guess if you're Shikigami, you're a little bit nervous because this is where this point can be stalled out quite often.
Kaya's just going to portal Shiki right in because, yeah, Wolverine, weak to poke. Very strong once you're on top of them. So Shiki will avoid the poke pressure. They've still got plenty of time, so if you use portal now and it fails, you'll still have it back before overtime, as you just portal directly onto one poor soul, which looks to be Beetle. Exile onto the Venom, map flip from Shiki, and you can hide behind Kaya's shield to stop Enzo's ult.
Sonic Seduction, it's the focus of Kaya trying to put the shield up towards making sure that there's no ultimate that can come in from Tanuki. It's not quite there, ready and available, but he's trying not to farm it up. Maelstrom's going to hit for full damage, and Tanuki is just going to, like, take himself out of this fight for the most part. Kaya goes down, though. That portal play hasn't really added up to much, and Kath has brought out the Iron Amplifier to maybe provide something. It's provided a pick, so the trades are even. Royal Flush is also expended on the side of Heretics to go in for this fight, as it is going to be a Iron Amplifier copy to make it 2 for 2 for Shikigami. Be right back. Yeah, Kath has managed to actually bring back another player, Frost Mountain. He's very close to having this last stand. The Kraken's impact now, shutting down anybody from Heretics that wants to try and fight this out. The Feast of the Abyss used for the Sustainer Naga has been a real treat for his team. He's found picks at the perfect time, and this sustain for Shikigami, the time back that they had is dwindling. They don't have that option to go for the portal, and Naga just sort of adds fuel to the fire as the Ruby Rage cuts for anybody left. Full reset back to spawn.
Yeah, this is such an awkward point to be able to complete a push on. So many times we see teams just fully stalled out and only able to bypass it off of sinking all 6 ultimates in to fully secure the team wipe against the defense of how much stall potential there is, how much closer those respawns will be. Frost Mountain whips the grab onto Beetle this time around, so Venom taking the opportunity, diving the backline, putting pressure onto both Lindstrom and Kath, which draws away the opportunity for Shiki to continue moving forward and claps on top of Ken to force Invisible Boundary out early.
There's still so much more work to do. Galactic Legend now for Tanuki, 2 are stunned by the last stand though. Ken is very low, but he manages to get the Invisible Boundary out in time. It's not going to matter. It's sent straight back. It's going to be done. One of the Strategist ultimates out of use, but Tanuki's found himself a good portion of trades on the other side, which means that Shikigami quite might make this the advantage that they want. Frost Mountain trying to keep this fight alive, but he doesn't have the supports in order to help him fight it. Tanuki has done absolute work there to keep his team on this defense. And bear in mind, Shikigami needs to finish the map. Never mind, get to the third part of the map.
Yeah, we're barreling towards last fight territory, and Alex, he'll hold that raging Royal Flush, which will be so problematic for Shiki's players to have to deal with. If you're relying on Kraken impact from Leolaz, if you use it first, Alex just casts the Purify of the Gambit ult, and Shiki lose that momentum. Nope, Heretics won't allow them to make the first move. Out comes the Gambit ult trying to run Shiki all the way back to spawn.
And even a beer bat's going to be broken. Uh-oh. Now, Shikigami, you've got 15 seconds to try to touch. Means that the attention is going to be a little bit more split. And this is the chaos that Heretics thrive in. Tanuki just chipping away as the Ruby Rage is going to be used. It's going to force out the fate of both worlds. It's going to book it over towards the payload to keep the fights going for Shikigami. They're out of time. Overtime has to be the thing to rely on. A Sonic Seduction and Galactic Legend might be the thing that stops Shikigami in their tracks. It doesn't matter how close Shikigami tend to make it against Heretics. There's always only one winner. The portal is there just in time to allow some sustain, but Heretics are just keeping their eyes on where these reinforcements are coming from. Naga finds that pick. It's traded out though. Tanuki goes down to Layla's, coming back over onto the Psylocke, and now Naga is going very low. Has to disengage on this one-sided Cyclops. Takes to the sky to find the picks, and Layla's on this Psylocke has actually been able to do quite a lot. It is traded out in the end. Last stand for Frost Mountain is going to dive on in, but Invisible Boundary is good enough, and there's so little on the clock for Shikigami to work with. Any pixel stepped off of this spot is not going to be enough. Dance to the Butterflies for Layla's is set up in time, but you got the barrage in the sky. It takes out Ken. Tanuki goes low enough. Beetle is also the next to follow, and now you've got the portal for Enzo to try to keep things on the edge for Shikigami. There's no ultimates to rely on outside of that Feast of the Abyss, and Frost Mountain goes down. Tried to put the game on his back, but Logan is sent out to pastures. Feast of the Abyss to try to stall, but there goes Cav. Naga has found himself too a hero in moments like this. Naga might be trying to get himself into a great position to qualify for the mid-season finals, and Shikigami run out of steam yet again. Team Heretics win out on map 5 and go further in the losers bracket.
This time, the portal play clutches for Team Heretics. Clutch Alex Gambit ult as well at the tail end of that fight. Like, Shiki do such a good job of being able to hold through the invisible boundary, bringing Psylocke back, having Dance of the Butterflies to get those connections onto Heretics' backline when their attention is split, divided between trying to keep their backline alive and keep the checkpoint alive. But the moment that that Gambit ult comes out from Heretics' end, that is the fight done. There's no more strange TP clutch, and sadly, Shikigami are sent out of the tournament alongside it. Admirable performance though, and we do see like why fastball was something that this team were able to rally around, because it threw Heretics for a loop, at least until they won one fight on second.
It really did. Heretics, they seem to thrive so often in those last-second overtime fights where it's just everyone get on the point and just delay as long as possible. But what do you do when that overtime objective is a literal blender in the form of a short, angry Canadian? In this case, it turns out just wait long enough for Alex to have the tool that's needed, or for Ken to have the tool that's needed. The strategists here did insane work keeping the team topped up, making sure that they could survive through those overtimes, and that was just enough to outlast Shikigami. We knew this was going to come down to a stall, we knew this was going to come down to a delay, but we could never have expected it to come down to that level of insane fights. Ryan, that was so good.
Yeah, I mean, like for MVPs across the series, you could give it to multiple people, but I think just with how those final fights went, for me, it feels like Naga had those like key moments, whilst like getting the one-sided Wolverine was a pivotal moment, I think, on the side of Shikigami, making sure that the other team up on the other side, the leader of the X-Men of Cyclops was available to Naga, was the big part of that. I gotta say, like, we've sort of been used to seeing Naga be able to be on like the triple strategist, so he wasn't playing duelist much, showing that he is still one of the best duelists out there. And Tanuki showing that he isn't just this kind of like melee, weird Black Panther, one-trick pony kind of thing. His hit scan in this like double hit scan lineup really helped Heretics when all things were crazy to just find those individual moments to find the picks and do what was needed.
Naga found the duels so many times. Naga found the pickups so many times. This one in particular, where they just trapped both strategists of Shikigami on that right-hand door and just locked them in via a combination of the front line and just Naga bullying them from a distance. Moxie, this was a team effort for sure by Heretics, but a well-deserved MVP by Naga.
Yeah, there were two, like, there was one main difference between these two teams outside of the compositions that they played, and it was that Shiki got stalled out on second. Heretics did not. They continued that momentum. They were able to just avoid the alt sync fight, having to deal with the respawns. So even though they got stalled out on third, they were still able to complete off of just going fast, going first, with that strange TP from Enzo into the follow-up of that Psionic Seduction to totally lock up Frost Mountain's position. Because until they won that one fight on second, to be able to hold their ground against the Wolverine, poke and prod and take away a lot of Shikigami's value from a distance before the dive was directly on top of them, before the fastball was able to find those grabs onto the Vanguards. It was looking like a very speedy first half of Yggdrasil POV, to the point that we were thinking like, okay, are we about to go to OT rounds with both teams logging like +3 minutes? But no, Heretics win that one fight and they just drain all of the momentum away from Shikigami afterwards.
The pressure, that one fight, like you said, but also momentum on that earlier push was a huge part to do with the incredible frontlining of Enzo, who we are going to talk to now to talk about the... We're going to start with the potentially awkward question of what happened yesterday and what changed for today, and if they're looking forward for their revenge. So we're going to jump on in to say hello to Enzo after what must have been a pretty exhausting match. Enzo, you just had a 5-game series versus VP yesterday, a 5-game series versus Shikigami today. Are you tired? Because you're winning your way back through. You're 1 series away now from the mid-season finals. But how do you keep yourself in the game after so many exhausting games?
I mean, yesterday was obviously really hurting, you know. Losing in that way, so close, and everyone know we should have won. But it's kind of the same thing that happened for them in stage 1, if you remember correctly. Like, we stole the game from them. So now, right now we just went the other way. It happens. It's a sport. It's really hard, you know. There's one team winning and there's one team losing. So, yeah, I don't know. I just told my team, I say, guys, you're allowed to be sad for today. It's fine. Tomorrow I want to see a smile on your face because it's gonna be a long day. And yeah, here it comes, you know, 3-2 on the first game, and we don't know what's coming next. Just how it is, you know. There's like every time we pick up new player, we forgot to tell them that it's gonna go game 5 every game with us. It's been the same thing with OG, it's been the same thing with Bobo. It's just game 5, no matter who we're playing against. That's one of our strengths, but that's also one of our weakness. I mean, most of the time we won this game of 5, but you know, we're gonna go game 5 against VP, we're gonna game 5 against Navi, we're gonna game 5 against Shiki. We just always go game 5, you know. We don't like when it's easy.
I mean, Shikigami seems to be a team that like constantly pushes you. So what happened in like the maps that you lost? You know, you went for the torch ban or like Central Park, and they were able to like get like one-sided Daredevil, even like the Wolverine like protect right at the start of like Yggdrasil. What were you expecting those kind of like moves to make sure that Frost Mountain gets that Wolverine in hand, or what caught you by surprise that ended up them taking 2 maps off of you?
I mean, it's just prep. Like, it's really hard for us to scream because okay, so there is like one team that canceled 10 scream last month. There is one team, I mean, there's multiple teams that leaks, and there's multiple teams that don't want to play against me for what I've been saying in the past interview. So going through this, you know, obviously our practice is not the greatest, you know. Like, it's really hard to get good prac, and that's what we got surprised with. So we're just cooking mid game, not gonna lie. Like, we're just cooking. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why, you know, we lose game and it feels like a stomp, and then we're gonna try our hardest, and we're gonna win the next one, you know. So it's hard to explain. We just, we saw the torch on Central Park. We thought about preseason, so we just tried to ban it, but it just didn't work out. I don't really know what happened this game. I can't really tell you, you know. We had like a talk between 2 games saying that we needed an IGL, so I say okay, I'll do it. But obviously when you're like talking, you play significantly worse, and it's also when you're IGLing but you don't understand what's happening, it's kind of hard to know and what's the good decision.
Yeah, it's a blur.
So talk to us about the Wolverine, because the last time we got to interview you was, what, pre-season, and you just went up against Cheeky and you banned out Frost Mountain's Wolverine because it wasn't fun to play. I can imagine playing up against the fastball was also not as fun to play, especially since you are the Vanguard player. Like, how do you deal with knowing that that Wolverine team up is coming through? What do you think allowed you guys to turn around the second point defense to stop the fastball in its tracks?
I think it's something that we learned before, where we will see the Wolverine getting thrown in there. We will all back up and all be scared. But I think the thing to do, in my opinion, is just to walk as a pack as 6. You don't be scared, because anyway, like, otherwise you're just giving the entire map and you can't contest anything. So we learned that now when the Hulk is flying, when the wall is flying, we just walk in, and whoever get grabs, whatever. But at least we can fight.
So you are now 1 series away from making it to those mid-season finals, and that is going to be decided who you're against in the next matchup. You're going to be against either Pulsar or Rad. do you have a preference?
I mean, obviously we would rather play against Pulsar because we already beat them, but I don't mind playing against Rad. It's been a long time I haven't seen them. It's been like 6 months, a year probably that I haven't faced them in the tournament. I'm ready for them. I know they have a lot of confidence. Mashlo likes to talk a lot, but I know this is fake confidence. You know, he's not feeling that confident against us. I know it's just funny. So yeah, I would like to play against them.
That's some confidence from yourself at least, so we'll let you get to resting after those very long series, and so that you can watch the next series that's coming up. Enzo, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you guys, and I hope to see you soon.
What a set of games we have had. Heretics really going through the ringer to try and find that final spot. There is now one team in between them and that mid-season finals position, but we don't know who it is yet. And from myself, Ryan, and Moxie, we are basically done for today, meaning it will be Vodable, Lemon Kiwi, and Leg Day taking you through to that final match. Who will it be in that lower bracket finals, fighting for that final LAN spot? Will it be Pulsar Esports, or will it be Rad to potentially go up against Virtus Pro to give them even more trauma of last year when it came to mid-season finals qualifications? Moxie, there's a lot of pressure on this match.
There is a lot of pressure on this map, but I think if you're Rad, if you're Pulsar, you're taking confidence from the fact of how close that the Heretics matches have been, and the fact that when we're talking to players in interviews, like, they're placing Rad above Heretics in some instances. So we will have to see. Any of our teams left in the tournament can take that third seed and find themselves booking that last and third ticket to the mid-season. I really don't know who it will be.
And Ryan, last words for you before we are done for the week.
I'd like to see Rad like really give it here. It'd be crazy to see them qualify for like mid-season finals, considering it'd be the first team that came through MRC actually to then qualify for an international event. So shows that like the route to tier 1 is a pretty good one for Rad, but I mean Heretics are good for these situations. You have to say they're the favorite.